Hello and welcome to the show. This is the Cult of Conspiracy, and my name's Jonathan.
I'm Jacob.
And today we bring back your boy, Brandon Kroll. It has been a hot minute, sir, and the way things are looking right now, you might not be so crazy, sir. I know some people might suggest that, but I feel like I'm not saying you're batting 1,000, but you'd make a pretty good living playing baseball with the odds that you're producing, sir.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I've basically considered it to be a guesstimation strategist. Of it's kind of like military, in the sense is like I don't know, but I think I can make a guesstimated, healthy assessment that this might be an outcome of something we have to look forward to, spiritual warfare wise. That's kind of how I equate this to. Whether it's right or wrong, don't know, but I did predict Trump was going to get ear clipped. That came to pass. The Q Steam files, I think, kind of gave a rough trajectory of what we're seeing now with Ghislaine. I don't know. I'm probably going to update that and be like, well, we're getting a little bit closer.
Yeah, the old
for
Maxwell
sure.
situation. She's been moved to a maximum security, but also like basically a five-star hotel for the wealthy elite type of jail in Texas. I'm hearing conversations that are saying that, oh, they're moving her to more comfortable accommodations because she just sung her song like a songbird, and we're about to get the list released to us. I don't personally believe that. I think that list is gone for good. The others are saying that, oh, she's being moved to this facility because they're leading the lamb for slaughter. They're about to kill her at this jail, and that's the reason. And all of these things are happening.
Possible.
I don't know.
It kind of is out in the middle of nowhere. It's actually fight. It's
Was it
actually
Bryan, Texas, or Breon, Texas?
Brian. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. Our boy Electro Nick lives out in that general area, like literally 5 minutes away from the prison.
How is it that Nick always finds his way into our conversations, even fucking accidentally? What is
He was
happening
like,
here?
He sent that to us whenever he found it out. He was like, "Yo, the Matrix is really matrixing today. Of all places, for Ghislaine Maxwell to go to jail to Bryan, Texas, of all places. Like that's like if there was a prison in fucking Prairieville, Louisiana, and just
There
like
is.
well got moved to that system. It's like holy shit, man.
That would be funny because there is a woman's prison not too terribly far from the house, which that would be hilarious. However, if
The
she got
hunt.
moved there, she would be killed. Like, there's no two ways about that. She would be like flayed alive by some of those bull dyke broads that are serving time right there.
I know.
But
What is
anyway,
that? Ellen Hunt, I think.
Hunts.
Hunt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a. Whew. I know some people that taught there. One of my college professors, his day job was teaching at the women's prison, and his night shift was teaching at the little local college I went to. He came with some stories, dude, talking about these women who like they would go up for their parole board, and straight up would be like, if we released you today, would you go back and try to finish the attempted murder that you started? First off, yes, I would finish the job on that bitch ass. Blah, 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 blah. Well, parole's denied. And then they're like, I don't know why they denied it. I told the truth. I thought that would matter. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, wow. Wow. You really need some more time behind bars. Okay.
Sometimes
Go.
you just gotta lie, sometimes
I mean, fuck, dude.
you just gotta bend the truth a little bit.
So who knows? Maybe Maxwell told all, and that's why she's being moved to a more comfortable facility where, like, what was that? Real Housewives of Austin, or one of them female wannabe influencer type. She's over there. Some other wealthy people's wives and shit are over there. Maybe they're moving her to this place because they're about to gank her to silence her for good because she just started talking for the first time in 7 years or whatever the case. I don't know. Brandon, weigh in here, bro.
Well, I've noticed a rise with the boomers, and there's also a rise with what I've been seeing of, oh, this is AI or that's not true. Like even the thing where Epstein himself says, like when he was asked the question, were you ever in the company of Donald Trump, blah, 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 with the, certain age group of gals. And he says, I choose to use my, like, what, Fifth Amendment and something else.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's AI. I'm like, oh, okay. While I understand that is a concern on the rise, what is this doing, though, for MAGA, where you're trying to tell them this does not make sense? You show them this, you show them that, and it's a constant MAGA go-round, as I like to call it, between cognitive dissonance and confirmational biases of that's not true, he would never do that. right? And he already laid the groundwork seeds of fake news, right? So what is this doing? It's ultimately what I see it as is I have to drop this now because I want to start doing online censorship. And it's going to
Mm,
be promoted not by the left, but by the right because it's going to ruin their illusions if something of Trump came out that actually is real, right? Like a dead man switch or whatever. And
yeah.
say, oh, yeah, see, that's the Democrats. They're trying to slander me. That's not a real video. That's fake. That's fake.
I'm not saying it's fake. I'm saying that the amendments that old boy read off had me dying of laughter. I would like, whenever they asked about the Donald Trump, have you ever been in the room with him with an underage girl? Not even were you doing anything with said underage girl. Were you ever in a room with Donald J. Trump and an underage girl? I would like to, I want to answer that, but I can't. And I would like to use my 5th, 7th, 15th, and 21st Amendment rights. And it's like, wait, pause, big dog. Did you just use the civil rights and the prohibition amendments in the same sentence as your right to shut the fuck? Like, wait, dude, what? So I don't know if that was
Just
AI.
incriminated yourself without saying it.
You just be throwing shit. I would like to use my 99th Amendment. Bro, you're what? But I don't know. Maybe that was AI. Maybe that was him just basically saying, I am going to not say a damn thing. And we are moving on to the next question. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, and this is where it gets a little tricky because a lot of this stuff, like we knew that Trump had something to do with the flight logs, and to be honest, we were always kind of glass half full with Trump, right? We're like, we got fucking brainwashed like the rest of them, and we were like, well, look, he really just went there to infiltrate. He just went there to collect information, and getting along with all the rest of the fucking Q-tards out there. And you want to believe in something like that. You want to believe that there is going to be a cog in the system that's going to drain the swamp and bring it down to its knees.
Yeah.
The problem is that is fictional fairyland, and it doesn't exist. And we can sit here and say that Jesus would have voted for Donald Trump all day long until we're blue in the face. It's just not real.
Those people kill me that would say that. Like, oh, I've also heard people equally say, if Jesus was alive today, he'd be a devout socialist. And it's like, I'm sorry, you're what, bro? Wait a minute now. But yeah, I wouldn't say that we got wrapped up in the Trump mindset. I would still prefer him over Kamala. It's not a crazy thing to say. But also, we have said since day one, end of the day, he is still a greaseball businessman from New York City. He's not like the savior of the republic. He's not the guy that, all these pastors putting their hands on him. He's anointed to be president. Listen, no, he's not. Let's stop that. Stop that right now.
That's all ritual, by the way.
It's all for show. It's all the optics, So yes, although you and I have been very, we've been more pro-Trump than pro-Kamala, and we've never been shy about that. I wouldn't say that we were like hardcore MAGA by any means either, although the comment section would read however the comment section reads on things. But I mean, what are we gonna do?
Right. So
perfect segue for today's topic, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've gotten a lot of pushback on this,
Oh.
Brandon. You said that people are calling you extreme liberal these days just because you're going up against Trump. And, you're kind of just talking about like, well, I mean, is there only two choices? Do you guys forget that there's more than just two?
Of the two, I would say Brandon's like a devout, hardcore conservative fundamentalist, if anything. How does he get called a liberal? I don't know. Like,
I've taken tests.
Yeah.
So without any further ado, I'll try to bring up the presentation. Again, because of those said accusations, I like giving a little bit of my background with words and definitions. As Confucius once said, when words lose their meaning, people lose their freedoms and or liberties varying on translation. And I'm like, yes, a lot of times when I tell people I'm anarcho-libertarian, they automatically think, oh, anarchist, Antifa, throwing, you're wearing a mask and you're throwing water cocktails at things. It's like, nope, not advocating that for one dang second. Libertarian, oh, you're just, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you just throwing away your vote? You're being stupid because no, not like that. And I'm going to be breaking that down for people and also recommending some resources for their own consideration. Doesn't mean you have to follow what I say. It's just, as you were just saying, everybody else sees the dichotomy, left bridle, right bridle. There's no in between. There's no third option or perspective of the world. And that's where I am immensely against. Militant centrist, as Jonathan once phrased.
The Freemasons want you to believe that there is only black versus white, right? That's the idea. That's the best form of control, is only giving two options and controlling both of said options. That being said, if you guys want to be able to come and support the show, come over to patreon.com/cult of conspiracy podcast. Brandon always brings just one of the best slideshows ever presented every single time he's on. So you're going to want to see all of these slides, the pictures, the references. He brings receipts. You like getting your eyes on something like that, so that you're not just listening with your ear holes. You don't want to set your eye holes, your eye sockets. You want to set your eyeballs on the screen or whatever, however you're going to look at it. It's patreon.com/cult of conspiracy podcast. Over there, you'll be able to slide into our DMs. You'll be able to get the shows a couple of days in advance. You'll be able to see all the video. And if you sign up for the Third Eye All the Way Open tier, you'll be able to have access to come and join us every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Central for the Cult Member Live Show, which actually, as of time of recording, is tonight. So you want to get involved on those shows. You know you ain't doing shit or fuck on a Tuesday night. Come and hang out with your boys and all of the rest of the good cult members. But if that's not enough for you, then the main reason why you go to Patreon is because it is completely
commercial-free listening, y'all.
Yeah, buddy, you ain't got to get interrupted via commercial during this episode or any other episode ever again if you go over to Patreon. And so, yeah, Brandon, the floor is yours, sir.
What the hell, Jacob? That was cool.
Yeah. It was either that or I could do the
I could do this voice too, but it doesn't have the same resonance. You know what I'm saying? It ain't got the same oomph.
yeah.
I love it. So yeah, this stuff is going to be touching into what I suspect connect to the mark of the beast. Again, big claim to make, because everybody says it's this, it's that. I'm just going to throw this out here for consideration. And also, it does connect us to why I believe what I believe, especially when we start breaking down the etymology for Archons. So it's Curse of the Archons, Statist, or Saint.
I was wondering if that was a typo. Statist? I thought that was supposed to be Satanist, but I was like, no, I am sure that Brandon didn't make a typo here. Let's let him roll, you know, but yeah.
Well, as I said, look up some words. Again, you don't have to like everything. Oh, you looked it up online. Get a thesaurus dictionary. I'm just doing this for people's convenience.
Yeah.
A statist is a person who advocates for a political system in which the state has substantial centralized control over social and economic affairs. I would also even veer this into a statist is an individual who defends politicians, political parties, and or that the government has to be in control. That's going full extreme, but that's what I'm saying. So when I'm saying jokes like, oh, such a statist or statist tears to rival Daily Wire, this is what I am inferring, is that why do you need the state in order to do something?
That's not even that extreme, dude. You look at, I'm not just going to say Republicans or Democrats, or for lack of better words, liberals or conservatives here.
Right.
Liberals are in this whole mindset where they need the state to literally breathe, to roll out of bed in the morning. They need Big Daddy government to say so. On the opposite side, conservatives for the longest time have been seen as the opposition to that. However, now we have people with Trump derangement syndrome on both sides of that, by the way, those that think that whatever he's doing is evil and whatever he's doing is good. So like these Epstein files being pushed under the rug, there are currently conservative-minded people that are doing like 15 different levels of mental gymnastics to make it make sense to them so they could still defend Donald Trump. And it's like, oh, so Trump derangement syndrome on the other side of the coin. So it's not just a liberal or a conservative talking point. It's people that are willing to forego their own morals, their own common sense, the evidence that's presented in front of them in order to maintain the narrative that the government cares about us or a politician cares about us. So I see what you mean on that.
Well, Jacob, I mean, come on. Nothing can stop what is coming, you know?
I mean, I agree with that to a sense, not a political sense. I think the end times are coming. Ain't nothing we can do to stop it, but
that's a key term.
Yeah.
Well, to veer into what you just said with end times, this is another individual. I'm not going to give his name, but he has another show. And he thought I was calling myself a saint, as in a revered religious individual like St. Paul, like St. Peter. In contrast to the Catholic bastardization of that word, the word saint originates from the Latin meaning sanctus, which means holy or set apart. So oftentimes when I am saying saints or saints, I am referring to Christians in the end times who are set apart. What are they set apart from? Because it says the Antichrist makes war against the saints.
Yeah.
Against the system, against government, against the just go along with it, as it were.
I'm about to say, if you consider yourself a Christian, you should consider yourself a saint.
Yes.
The two
As a holy
coincide
people.
together.
Yeah.
If you don't consider yourself a saint, then you need to start acting accordingly.
Mhm.
That's just my own interpretation here.
As we keep going, you're probably going to be agreeing with me going, I see where you're going.
If you're washed in the blood of the Lamb, then you better act like you're washed in the blood of the Lamb. And if you're not, then that's a you problem. But
Shout
it
out.
seems like that you've gotten the blessings and all of the things here. I don't know.
Shout out to the sinners out there, baby, keeping it real. You know?
Brother, we all sinners. We are absolutely sinners. But
Right.
like he was just saying, those that are set apart. If you have been saved, then you should see yourself as set apart, not greater than, not better than. No. But you should act as if you have your name written in the book of life. And I don't mean walk with a pompous attitude. I mean walk in a spirit of grace. But we're going way off into the weeds here.
No, it does connect, because or even the cynicisms or skeptics of Christianity, what you just inferred, Jonathan, is that it's kind of like, guys, this is the hypocrisy that I can see with your movement, right? Where we make satire shows like the Righteous Gemstones.
I fucking love that show, dude.
We make all this fun and satire, and we're making ourselves look good, but it's actually retro Phariseeism. Is you're doing the same exact thing that Christ himself was condemning. That's what I'm inferring with this. But again, this is just a brief. I'm just giving a couple of definitions. I did not know I was this until recently. I did a chat with a gentleman by the name of Steven Sizer, and that is Steven with PH, not V. Great books. If you guys are kind of like, well, why are Christians supporting Zionism? He debunks that, goes into a lot more depth. I'm a covenantalist, which means I believe that Christians have become the new Israel. It is not about a sacred land, not about a holy people, not about all this evangelical crap, which, again, as we see with a lot of Islamic pages, like, why would Christians be supporting a genocide in Gaza? That kind of stuff.
Right.
So, again, just throwing that out here. And, again, this is just a brief little glance over. I'm also a contrarian. And it doesn't...
You?
Oh, all right.
Wait a minute now.
It means you're unconventional, you're a counterintuitive thinker, or you're always able to withstand the hurting pressures of abuse or crowd following conformists. Reason I emphasize conformists is we get in Romans 12:2, be not conformed to things of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? I don't believe that, like with C19, I immediately was seeing what the herd was doing at my church, and I was going, you're wearing gloves for an invisible virus? You're putting caution tape between pews? Like, what? It didn't make sense to me, and I need an answer, right? As opposed to just following the crowd, I said, give me an explanation. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Well, as a contrarian should be thinking, or critical thinking. As you just said, Jacob, it's not, I just defend the left because, you know, they care about us and we need to have social rights, blah, 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 blah. No, and it's not like, oh, Trump's going to fix it and he's going to drain the swamp. No, if he's going to drain the swamp, he'd pull himself out because he's the little bathroom sink plug, whatever you call those things. We need to get him out of the way with Epstein, and boom, everything else will start draining. But alas, he's what's blocking the whole way. So again,
funny how that works out.
Right. All right, so we already covered that. And we covered that. Okay. So yeah, I was chuckling because sometimes I see this stuff and I start, because the way they list this critical thinker means you might be wrong. You engage in a diverse source of information and you're questioning their credibility. Now, a contrarian, again, you're all wrong. Yes and no. As Jonathan, I really have to hold it to you because that's what I always say to know people is militant centrist. I don't say everybody's wrong. On the contrary, I sit in the middle and say, I like what I'm seeing from you, and I like what I'm seeing from you. But I do have some critiques. Not everybody's wrong. I have critiques, which, again, this is where I would debunk this aspect if you go and look it up, like, is this good? Is this bad? Blah, blah, blah. Another YouTube individual, he was saying that most contrarians are usually conspiracy thinkers, and this can be bad for society. And I was like,
so only good. Only good. You know, we only bring good into this world. And by the way, I noticed at the bottom of the triangle there, it says cult leader. And we have said since the inception of this show that we will never, ever, ever be cult leaders. We are but humble cult members like the rest of our listeners out there.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I understand why the contrarian I guess, tier of this pyramid, I understand the negative connotations to that, right? You have people that go against the grain for the sake of going against the grain. And like, there's a level of,
it's a Karen.
Well, right, but it doesn't have to be. There are levels of intellect to that. There's people that will go out of their way to look at things from a different perspective for looking at things from a different perspective. And that's fine. That's not necessarily bad. But then you have people that will go online. I can make a post right now and say, the beautiful blue sky today just reminded me of how blessed I am to be alive. Something very G-rated and open-ended. And you will have people that will be fighting with me that the sky isn't blue. It's it's like, okay, so you're literally being a dick for the sake of being, there's levels to it. But
we're content creators. We see the comment sections. In all honesty, it's like you're looking at it. You're like, I could dismantle this thing sentence by sentence, but you're not worth my time.
And it's the same on the political scale. How dare you say
that? You think you're smarter than everybody else? No, I see what you're saying, and I understand the logic that's behind it and the motivation behind it. Therefore, that's how I start cutting it down. It's not, and again, I don't even want to do it for I'm smarter and better than you. It's more of a no. Where you're coming from is not even the same category as I'm at. Whereas I saw one quote, I only debate my equals, all others I teach. There's a buddy, and his name is Manny. And I absolutely disagree with Manny on 100% of stuff. But the way he can articulate his arguments and give his citations, as opposed to just quoting whatever liberal, whatever, I respect the hell out of him. And I've even said before, if I was on trial and I needed a lawyer of like, I couldn't afford a real lawyer, but I need someone to be my spokesperson, I'd still get him, even if he was intoxicated. That is how articulate he is and how much I still trust and love him, despite having a disagreement on the political spectrum, right?
Yeah.
But it should be.
Those kind of people are important to still keep around. You need people who you disagree with. Like, your life is not meant to be an echo chamber. The people who stop listening to a show or stop listening to a podcast because that one guy said that one thing and I can't listen to him anymore. It's like, I wouldn't be where I'm at in my evolution of thinking where I'm at currently without Jacob, and vice versa. Jacob, the same way. I feel like we influence each other, we make each other think, and that's what makes this show, great, in my opinion, is because it's not an echo chamber.
100%. I don't know if y'all have ever been to a meeting, whether it's like a board meeting or a club meeting or whatever, where you'll have one guy who's like the leader of the pack, and he'll bring up, we need to do more fundraising events, and everybody at the table, yep, we absolutely do, yeah. And we also need to recruit new members. Yeah. Nobody's offering suggestion or pushback or bringing up, hey, well, what about this? What about this obstacle? Not disagreeing necessarily, but like, we need to talk more in depth on that. You have a room full of just, yep, absolutely. It's like, well, thanks for coming out. Can we maybe make some more conversation happen, or is everybody just here to nod their heads? And it is mind-numbing. You feel your IQ points dropping. It's not beneficial.
I saw something like that. It was with the workers. We had a new plant manager. His name was Carl. And basically, he was playing this video of how to be a good employee. Don't talk bad about the company. Don't do this. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, at the very end, I raised my hand. I said, this is all well and good, but it sounds like more you want us just to conform and accept everything. But we're more concerned about about raises as opposed to, behavior in the workplace. And he got so awkwardly quiet. Everybody's looking at me like we all wanted to say it, but dude. But then when I left, I had like 3 to 5 guys that came over and they're like, dude, thank you for saying what I've always wanted to say. I'm like, that's all it is. Get up.
Why didn't they say it? The squeaky wheel gets the oil, man.
I'll take the hits, dude. And I came up with this when I was at the same place. I said, you got to respect dirt, because if you don't respect dirt or the things you walk over, you got nothing left to stand on. Not that I think of people as dirt, but when I'm seeing the hypocrisy of something like that, is like you just nod your head and say yes, you say yes, you say yes. But a little ebb and flow is good. And again, it's just like relationships. I like a guy that's assertive and knows what he wants, and you kind of make the decision once in a while. That's all it is.
You gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet. That's just the way life is.
But there needs to be a level of tact, right? You don't have to be a asshole contrarian for the sake of having your voice be heard. Like, no. There is a way to politely push back and have some, like you said, some respectful ebb and flow. 100%.
Look at us getting philosophical on this philosophical podcast.
That's all of this veers into, because I don't want it to just be like, oh, you're just that. No, I'm going to explain. This is how I am. This is how I think. I've actually bothered to look into, why do I believe the thing I believe, right?
Yeah.
It's questioning the consensus. It's embracing a healthy dose of skepticism. Just, okay, I'll consider it, put it on the back burner. And then seeking alternative perspectives, as we just said, a little ebb and flow, and identifying hidden opportunities. And that's always what I try to do. It's like, when I'm playing a game of chess, I probably will lose. But my goal is I'm going to make you lose as many pieces as possible to take me down. Will I always succeed? No, but that is my objective, right? Why? Because I'm looking for that hidden opportunity. Maybe I'm able to steal the queen and I somehow turn the tide. I don't know, but you look for that. That same thing with life.
Heard that.
So I'm also an iconoclast. Again, not a word that I was familiar with, but once I heard of it, I was like, I like these guys. And I'm going to be making a shirt called Pull a Gideon, because Gideon was one of the first guys to destroy idols in the Bible, and I'm going to have like a smashed altar of Baal or stuff like that. And Iconojul is someone who puts reverence upon images, thinking that this somehow makes us closer, and or you just celebrate an icon of the faith. Like, I'm going to go pray at St. Peter's statue, or, the Virgin Mary. Fill in the blanks. An iconoclast, in contrast, they're like, no, let's smash that, because that has nothing to do with God, and he does forbade having anything to do with graven images.
Yeah.
Rough work, iconoclasm. But it's the only way to get at the truth. Oliver Wendell Holmes. What I like to veer a little bit deeper into that is, okay, if you're going to get mad if I destroy this, is that technically an idol? Because you've put reverence upon it, you have love upon it, and as I've summed it up, if it wasn't a form of idolatry, it wouldn't irk you so much when someone tells you that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So this is, again, with Christmas trees or whatever, it's over here like, I know you don't have to believe with what I've come up with. The thing is, the irony is when I explain it to them, I give them passages, I break down the anthropology, I say, you can look up this. Well, I don't do it for those reasons. God knows my heart. And I just chuckle because I'm like, okay, so you're over here saying I don't want to do that, because if I look into that, that means I'm going to have to make something applicational. And I don't want to make it applicational because that requires work. Right.
Oh, Brandon, do you not get into the holiday spirit whenever it tis the season?
You're saying like Christmas?
Yeah.
Bah humbug.
Ebenezer himself over here. God.
No. It's just we don't need a special day for such things, especially when it connects with Sol Invictus. Again, winter solstice. Look into that, folks. For me, there's free food. It's a day off. I'm there for the food. I'm there for the day off. I'm not here for the trees. I'm not really here for the presents. If a present is given to me, cool. I believe in just giving out generosity all year long if you can and you can afford it. Me, I'm usually broke because I live on donations. Shout out to my Patreon.
Oh yeah.
So for me, it's like, nah, I don't really need a holiday to determine that for me. Just like with a politician, I don't really need a politician to speak on my behalf. I like doing that and being generous all year long. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but that's my thinking.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Again, another a little bit veering more into vocabulary.com. Iconoclasts can be rugged individuals, bold thinkers who don't give a hoot of what tradition calls for. So it also means you could be against tradition, as you're just inferring. I just don't do that. Why? Because, again, iconoclasm is saying I don't need a sacred image, date, something made of cloth like a flag. I know that it irks a lot of other people. I don't need precious stones, wood or stone. I don't need that. Or even flesh, right? All this can be forms of idolatry. It's what you're imposing and imbuing upon an object, person, place, or thing.
Now, let me ask you, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but just a little more clarification. Is there levels to this? So I understand the argument for the anti-icon, or I should just say iconoclast mindset. I'm with you, right? Graven images, statues, things like that people worship as if the spirits themselves embody the concrete statue that has been carved to look like a patron saint or a sacred virgin or whatever the case. I'm with you 100% on that. But is there limits to this? And what I mean is like hallowed ground, as in like a cemetery. Right? Is there a level to where, yes, it's just earth and it's just tombstones. It's just rocks that have been carved to say people's names. It is just dirt that we have decided this plot of dirt is where we will bury people. Mm-hmm. But I also don't believe that we should desecrate these people's burial places, right? I believe there is something a little extra on that. The same way, maybe a church. It's just brick and mortar. it's just 2x4s. It's just a roof. But I don't believe that, like if the church burns down, I don't believe that God's dwelling place has burned down. It is a building that was used for the congregation of his people. But I also believe that we should have some reverence for the places of worship. So I think there's got to be some sort of a middle ground on this.
Ish. With the cemetery aspect, I mean, if people are going over there to worship the burial ground and stuff, that was exactly what the early pagans used to do. Pagan Christianity by Frank Viola cuts this out a little bit more, is that they would build their temples over the burial ground of a dead hero. And this started to veer when Catholicism, it started veering into the church. And this is where we got St. John's Church, St. Paul's Church. Now, does that mean today this is what they do with every single building? No, but the concept is that now you're building a structure or building in the memory of a person of the faith, right? And part of the problem with buildings, as you just said, I don't think, no, we just destroyed God's dwelling place here. It's more of Christians are the new building, but people are now, what the problem was, and this guy made a very interesting observation. I think it was Jacques Ellul, and I'll be referring to the guy later. The problem with the church is when they started forcing mass conversion, we started losing individual discipleship. So we couldn't really determine whose conversion was genuine and whose was just kind of doing it because they were fearing the wrath of the church, and or it was like a cultural thing. I just accepted it because this was the norm of everybody else. It was like a mass collective. I just did it because everybody else did it. And that's kind of the problem that I have with that, is that you're putting so much emphasis now on the building, and then you start getting caught up in the traditions of man, and then you start losing yourself into an institution and an ideology, and you get people are like, well, the Orthodox Church is the one true church. Or the Catholics, like, we're the one true church because we were founded off of St. Peter, blah, blah, blah. And everybody starts arguing all these semantics. And I'm like, you're starting to miss the whole purpose of what the faith was about. And you created religious sects or denominations, demon eye nations. You started veering off into that because that was more important to you than the gospel. And that's where I know it sounds, well, it kind of goes to extreme. I'm elaborating as this is the domino. We let this little inch go by, boom, whole ruler extends outward.
And the same could be said for our bodies, like our physical bodies, this carbon-based life form flesh suit that our souls happen to be embodying at this moment. Right. This is supposed to be the temple, right? This should be what we are worried about desecrating in all of these things. That doesn't mean that tattoos are evil, but that also doesn't mean that you should start a drug habit and treat your body like it's, you shouldn't use your body like an amusement park to that level. You should try to take care of your body. I feel like that's not... I see with the argument about the Iconoclast saying that the worship of your body is evil, and I agree with that, but also we should give it the same reverence as the dwelling place of the spirit, or at least that's my interpretation.
Not your body is a temple of the Lord, correct? Yeah. By the way, they're saying that tattoos has a link to cancer, so that's a fun little fact.
Interesting.
Yeah, I saw a clip on that. I was like, I got to share that one of these. Oh, so when you were saying, what if you know those tests online you can take, kind of see where you're at the political spectrum. I am everything here on the right side of the screen on this slide. So 69.7% conservative. It's probably grown a little bit more into individualism with the 58.7. Isolationism 76.3. So really,
I like it a lot.
Security, I again, this is not necessarily I'm in this political spectrum. These are just sentiments that I had that fell on the paradigm of left and right. No, when I went to another event, I scored exactly right here in Libertarian Square, right above centrist, and right below all the more prominent or extreme individuals of said movement. So I was kind of chuckling. When I say libertarian, I emphasize not necessarily a political party. The whole concept of libertarian means individualism.
Yeah.
As in, you're free to do what you want to do.
I look at your scores. I don't see anything that I think most logical human beings would disagree with. Okay, fine. Sure. Left, right, fine. More individual rights versus the masses rights. You believe in more, we should be taking care of our country than trying to have a one world government. You believe in having a strong security force, not being the world police.
Right.
You believe that we should have more like power and justice be written down and codified into law rather than what a single judge determines the day of the trial. It should have like legal precedence to it.
Or I would even throw a Bible factor as we're basing this off God's word of what to do here, not going, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. I'm with you. I'm with you. And then you also believe in more of a small local government being the one to adjudicate over your life rather than a larger national government when, again, a logical person.
Tribal is better. Tribalism is a little bit more of a buzzword these days. But like tribal libertarian is what I've stated is very agoric, where we have the powwow and I come to represent myself. Unless my father is bedridden and I come to say, hey, this is what my dad said. I'm just speaking on his behalf because he can't make it. A representative or a delegate where you can immediately pull me if you don't like how I represented you. It's not we got to wait 3, 4, 2 years for this guy to get off the stage.
Yeah.
More of that mindset as well. So yes, term limits or whatever.
I actually don't mind. Like, I think that it's actually a way better idea to have, as far as the bottom one, where you have centralism versus states' rights. It makes way more sense to have states' rights than across the board, everybody doing the same exact thing. Like, for example, there's a lot of people out there that are pro-abortion or anti-abortion, right? And it's like, all right, well, make some states have it and make some states don't have it. And if you don't like the state, if you don't like, what your state represents, then, I mean, you can always just go to another state. You don't have to move to an entirely other country for that.
Well, this is where it veers into. I know, Jacob, you're a little bit probably more familiar with this, but like in was it Exodus 24 verses I think 14, 15. I know you and your if you want to be like your parents who are on the other side of the Euphrates and worship those other gods, you do that. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. This was Jacob, as they're going into conquering the promised land. Again,
I have that verse written on the rafters inside this house, as a matter of fact.
And that's kind of the mentality as what Jonathan just laid out is, again, a lot of people, because they're like, oh, you want a utopia? But no, as a Christian, we're set apart. And this is what our tribe does, or this is my community does. And if you guys want to do that, go for it. I do not endorse it. I do not condone it for a dang second. But hopefully my personality, character, or testimony can convince, convict, convert you. And I'm not going to impose this with the point of a sword, or my institution's going to make it right by putting in legislation to make sure you can't do that. No, I'm not going to force that on anybody. That's per individual's determination, but also per tribe. If that's what you guys want to do, I'm all for it.
You know what? We have to really start getting to that point with all these, we have like some serious extremes nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, people are going, like, nobody knows how to stay in the middle on anything anymore. It's like, if you're in the middle, then, you're wasting your time or you're wasting your choice or whatever. You don't need other people to believe what you believe in order to concretize your idea of what your belief is.
Right.
It's okay if other people disagree with you. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
You don't need the validation of strangers to make yourself more correct. The overarching theme of that verse, by the way, of as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Here it is, broken down to modern phrase. Do you, boo-boo?
Yeah.
Do you, because I'm going to do me. That's the overarching theme to this, okay? We're not saying, well, you over there, you're going to hell. That's not for us to judge. I'm not in a position where I can make those calls. I'm saying what I'm going to be doing up in my house with my kids. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be funny if Jesus actually came and like that whole story was written, like the whole biblical story was written in 2025 using this?
Oh my God.
So hilarious.
Yo, them Romans are all cap, fam. That's that boy.
That shit is Sigma as fuck.
Yo, them Pharisees are straight cheeks, let me tell you. Like, bro, what?
Wow.
Somebody needs to do that. We got, what, a million different versions of the Bible. There has to be something like that,
There's
right?
an Ebonics version of the Bible. If you haven't picked it up, I highly recommend you Google it. It's pretty hilarious. Yes, misquoted is all get out, but that it's not meant to be blasphemous. It's meant to be a little comical, but also the message that was trying to be sent. If you speak Ebonics fluently, you'll get the message. But yeah, it's great.
Those
It's
be
great,
tripping, bro.
bro, for real. The Philistines be on one, son.
So again, this is also where in the arguments of, are you pro-capitalism? Are you pro-communism? I'm personally against all of that. Wait, what? I'm more so, as opposed to this whole paradigm, I'm more of a let's barter and trade. What? Romans used to be paid in salt at times. This is where the terminology of he's worth his salts, right? Or the word salary, that etymology comes from, right? And
Yeah.
I chuckle because in order to keep away demons or bad spirits, fairies, fill in the blank, when you look into all these stories, which I know you guys are more than, affluent in, salt is frequently used to keep them away.
The circle. Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of chuckle. Is that kind of a little bit of a thing as I go with the Archons? Is there a little bit of a thing with that where they're kind of almost trolling, saying, you're supposed to be the salt of the earth, Christians, right? Supposed to be a little bit of that irritant for these things. You're supposed to be the salt of the earth, but I'm going to make you focus on the love of money, which is the root of all evil. I'm going to make you focus on that, and guess what I'm going to use? I'm going to call it salary. The very thing that you're supposed to be using against me, salt, I'm going to make it the thing that you only think about, materialism.
Yeah.
And I don't care if it's left or I don't care if it's right.
Materialism, yeah.
Right. As long as you're focused, as that is your goal, that is your premise in life, is to make something and or to create a system where that's, the government will give it or redistribute the wealth, fill in the blank. I don't really care about all that. But I chuckle because in the centrist perspective, it's like personal freedom is what they believe, which again, it's right smack dab between Republican and Democrat. And the biggest thing, dude, I already concede this for people who are thinking I'm a Libertarian Party promoter. No, the very reason a Libertarian Party will never work is because they don't understand etymology. Libertarian is individualism. This is why your party will never work, because you got the concept. I'm an individual, right? We are all individuals as we get in Life of Brian, but nobody knows how to actually do individualism. What is that? You're just supposed to take care of your house and you love your neighbor as yourself with the golden rule. That's it. All the rest, you're complicating it. Don't overthink it. It's kind of like doing a math problem when I was little. Don't overthink it, Brandon. I'm still trying to figure out why letters are involved with the number problem. Please.
Yeah. I mean, there's never going to be such a thing as a leader of individuals, right?
Thank you.
That's almost an oxymoron.
Thank you. And that is why the party will always collapse. And this is why I do not promote party. I'm saying the sentiment of individualism. But again, it's a tolerance for other people's belief. It's a respect of private property rights. Again, I don't necessarily believe in property, but if that's your house or this is where you put your tent up, well, you don't touch it. That's you. That's you and your fam for the night. That's where you guys are. We're not touching that, right? Civil liberties, individual right to keep and bear arms. Totally for that. I am pro the idea. You have the right to defend yourself if somebody's, encroaching on your freedom or your space. You have the right to open fire. And ending corporate welfare advanced by, based on individual ability. I'm not going to go into all the left and right because we're fairly already know about that. Robust national defense, or yes, I believe that we should have a bit of a tribe with warriors, right? We should have the right to, okay, this is what you're more proficient in, and if you want to go and train with the warriors for the day, go for it. I mean, I would even, not saying classes as in we create class or like a caste system, but classes as in, okay, you're a little bit more of the farmer. Maybe you'd want to go over there. You're more of the protector, so we have you be part of the watchman / hunting gatherer group. You're more
Let's
of
call
the
them
scholastic.
Guilds, not classes, right? Let's call them guilds.
Yeah, guild.
You want to be a craftsman, you want to
word.
be a part of the warrior class, you want to be a part of the clerical class, the administration class. Like, we used to have guilds. We would, I guess these days, call them unions, but that's a whole other conversation I'm not getting into today. But yeah, I'm with you that. Yeah, craftsman guild, mercantile guild, yeah.
Administration, like, again, with Jackson Lull, phenomenal guy to read. He was even stating that people found out that he had an education, and so it was in his little small town in France around World War II. But they were having like disputes in the town, so they went to the smart guy. You figure it out. We have a marriage contract, so you figure it out. Did they have to? He's like, anything that I was signing or paperwork or whatever, they felt good coming to me because I was educated and I kind of had a rough trajectory of what to present for them. But if it went into a court of law, it's not necessarily legal by man's terminologies. But that's what I'm saying, is that's where it comes into the community. I respect you, and I know you've already gone through a process. You've already educated yourself in this, so I respect you enough to do that. It's like, or will you officiate our wedding? Why? Just because I respect you as my bro and you're about the closest thing I got to, family. So would you be willing to, okay, we don't have to go to a justice of peace? No. I know it sounds crazy, but that's kind of how I interpret a lot of that.
I feel that.
So again, can't talk too much about libertarianism without referring to Murray Rothbard. And he said the essence of libertarianism is individualism, the belief that every individual is unique and has the right to his own life, liberty, and property, right? Often, anarcho-libertarianism, which is what I veer into, not solely libertarianism, is anti-statism, is a rejection of a centralized government and all forms of authority. The only thing I would say I would respect is more is the hegemony of, father, mother, kids, right? That's the only thing I would respect because that was God ordained. Therefore, we're just going to keep that. Also respect the elders. Individual liberty, emphasis on individual freedom, self-determination, and the right to choose one's own path. So I'm not going to force you to do anything. I will give you what I would advise, but I'm not going to, impose that upon you as a structure for your life. Voluntary interaction, property rights, self-governance, right? An emphasis for local communities and individual autonomy rather than centralized authority.
I actually have a little nugget of information that maybe not a lot of people know. Did you know that? So we have Thomas Jefferson wrote on the Declaration of Independence, the what was it? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right?
Yeah.
The actual original term that he took that from, I just looked it up. He took that the original term was from John Locke, and it's called John Locke's Trinity, which was life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. Yeah. And Thomas Jefferson changed it to the pursuit of happiness. So it's kind of funny how our country owns all of the property. Yeah, we can buy it and we can get the land deed and the title and all that shit. You don't pay your property taxes. Who's it go to?
So when John Locke wrote this, you got to keep in mind the only people that were ever allowed to vote were white land-owning males. If you were just some young 20-year-old, but you didn't own even a small parcel of land, you didn't have a say-so in what the land was being ruled thereof. So you had to own land to even have your voice be heard. Jefferson had a different kind of approach to it to where, listen, just because you may not own the land, maybe you're renting a spot for 30 years, you should at least have some sort of a say in how the government governs. And so, yeah, they took influences off of each other. And that was very critical times. And it was that post-Renaissance era where somebody was finally pushing back against a monarch class. And yeah, so Thomas Jefferson took notes from a lot of people. He was a very well-educated individual, I should say.
Yeah, it's silly though to change it from the pursuit of property to the pursuit of happiness, because first of all, why are you pursuing happiness? You can just be happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's possible to just be happy. It's an extremely vague term, whereas the pursuit of property, I mean, everybody has their opinion of what happiness actually looks like and what happiness actually is. That's why it's so vague. Pursuit of property, I mean, it's pretty fucking cut and dry. Right?
But that's the point. It was about individual freedom. So he's not saying that everybody should be trying to own land. He's saying everybody should try to do what they can in this life to be happy. And you're right. Happiness looks different to different people. Some people are completely happy being nomadic, never owning shit, moving from place to place, but they have found happiness within that. And you should have the right to do that. If some people want to own, like on the TV show Yellowstone, and they want to own an entire mountain and all of these things, and that's what makes them happy, you should have the right to do that. There's levels to it.
Sure, and I get it. But I'm just saying that it seems a bit sleight of handish to me, because the pursuit of like you're saying that the original ideology of living in this country was life, liberty, and property. You have all three of those. The happiness is baked in. That's just how I look at it. I don't know. I mean, it got people out of the idea of wanting to own and pursue property, and more about just like, color your hair and change your name and cut off your dick and slap some tits on and whatever makes you happy.
Okay. They weren't doing that in the 1770s, my boy.
But
Hold on.
He could have been laying the foundation of that, though, of the ideology to sprout roots from that core concept, because it is so vague. Again, it's so vague, we can put any interpretation upon it, right? That's the problem there. Also, maybe a stroke of genius if he had more nefarious intentions, which we're seeing today kind of unfold. Is if that's what you want to do, go for it. And then
that's the deal.
At the same time, our government is saying that's not what we're going to do. This is exactly blah, 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 blah. And then you're saying you're doing it in God's name. Oh, yeah. Okay, so now you're saying you're speaking on behalf of God. So what's the difference now between a Christian president and the Catholic Pope? If the Christian president is speaking on behalf of God, then he must be right. As Paula White Cain says, to say no to Donald Trump is to be saying no to God. Huh?
Which is silly.
Well,
That's
and
very
as
blasphemously dangerous.
what was it?
Right.
Literally the day after or 2 days after, there was the meme that I think it was one of his sons posted up of Trump as the Pope.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's the deal, dude. Dangerous freedom. Freedom is a two-way street, because while you do give somebody the freedom to pursue land ownership, to make their community a better place, and all these things, they have the freedom to do so. They also have the freedom to cut off their genitals and reassign themselves and try to make people buy into their bullshit make-believe story. And that's the thing. Freedom is kind of an all-encompassing blanket policy, and it's not always a good thing. It's kind of like free will. Free will is one of those dangerous things where, like, you have the free will to go to work today. You also have the free will to lay at home and lose your job. That choice is solely up to you, but you still have the choice to make it. It's that kind of thing.
I love this meme, how you have my masters are better. No, my masters are better. And you have the representatives of the red Make America Great Again hat versus the fucking face mask of the liberals. It's hilarious, dude.
Dude, they're the only ones that still wear face masks.
I don't even care how you live. Just leave me alone. All your masters are tyrants. It's like, as one, I really like this hoodie. I think it's on Amazon. No masters, no slaves. Basically sums up anarchy in its summation is, you know what? Not going to impose it upon you. But at the same time, that's what you guys want to go do. You want to go run your head up against a brick wall? Knock yourself out, quite literally. I couldn't care less. However, if you're going to say, well, why do you believe what you believe? Right this way. Let's have a chat by the campfire, and I'll try to elaborate and answer your questions as best as I can. Doesn't mean I'll have the answer, but I'll try to give you the best explanation that I have, which, again, the average individual, they can't articulate why they believe in Christianity. Or when I had one person tell me this, he says, you're misleading people with your message. I said, telling a Christian to abstain from things of this world, which is literally the essence of Christianity, is leading people astray from Christ? Do you hear yourself right now? You're basically merging the Constitution and God's Word as a singular entity, but you're putting the Constitution before the Bible. There's already a red herring right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Is the Bible supposed to be evolving and ever changing, or
staying? Well, it's like what's the standard? And that's like I was explaining before with Kabbalah. Satan's ultimate goal is, yes, this is God's word. Here's a verse. However, what can I find as a loophole? Right? What can I do to try to invert this from its true intention? When he's tempting Christ in the wilderness, classic example. Here's a verse. This would justify what I'm saying. Christ. And here's another verse that cancels out where you're going with that. Just stop, right? This is what a Christian's supposed to do, right? So when you hear something that says, oh, I'm a Christian nationalism, it totally sounds justified. And then when somebody gives you a counterpoint saying, did you consider this verse and this passage right here and this thing? And they start going, well, okay, no, you know what? That's going against what I was told to believe ever since I was a kid, right? So now it's become, I'm defending my country over Christ.
Yeah.
Christ is always going to cause a little bit of a... Oh, dang it, I hate that road bump. Why? Because every time I go over it, I have to slow down my speed. Why? Because you're going down the wrong way and with the wrong trajectory, right? You got to slow down and rethink.
I feel like a lot of people are, a lot of religious people would actually be better coined as traditionalists rather than religious.
Very true.
They do things based upon tradition as to what their family's been doing.
That's what Kabbalah is. That's the literal Hebrew word for tradition or traditions of men. And agams, when you spell it MAGA backwards, is tradition in Sanskrit.
Oh, how about
that? Or temple builders. As we're going to cut. Yeah, we can brush over that. But yeah, there's a little bit of that, as you just said. Well, it's traditionalism. Yes, but why do you do the things you do? Well, yeah, it's tradition. Yes. But where did this come from? And then when you finally confront them or explain to it, it's the same thing with political parties. Well, that's your opinion. That's your truth. Well, it's not as good as my guy, because my interpretation is, but it's like, okay, so you don't really have a standard. It's just whatever makes me feel good in pursuit of your own happiness interpretation of the world, right? It suddenly becomes vague. It's whatever I interpret it as truth.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So basically what you're trying to present here is you're getting a lot of people that are saying that you're an extreme leftist. You get And I'm sure even the people on the left are calling you an extreme rightist, even though you're anti
or nut job Christian.
really.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to lay out like, all right, look, this is actually what I really am. So you guys can really understand
part,
exactly where I'm trying to come from.
And I'm going to explain how I've come to this conclusion, also based on etymology that kind of gave me a home run of I'm convinced now, because I think this could connect to a Mark of a Beast scenario when I break down some etymology for you guys. So again, just to kind of speed it up because we're a little bit pressed on time. The keys of libertarian anarchism is the opposition of the state, as we said before. It's a rejection of private property, whereas, again, there's multiple variations of interpretation of this. Some of them say we need a communal anarchism. Others say capitalism. I'm, again, in the center of saying I don't believe in that. I believe barter and trade. So if Jonathan is able to help me with some tech problem today, I'm going to give him exchange eggs, a couple of things of bacon, whatever, to feed his kids, right? You gave me your skill set. I'm going to exchange to you whatever I have of mine. So again, mine would probably be a category of teaching. So maybe I do like a homeschool community thing. And I'm not saying like community. No, I'm saying just like, okay, hey, you want to learn about this particular topic? I got a library. You want to chit chat about it? I've read it a lot. Here's that's kind of what I would contribute. Being libertarian means you are free to do as you please as long as you don't harm anyone else. This is aka known as the non-aggression principle, and taking responsibility for your actions, right?
That's the hang up for a lot of people.
Yes.
People don't want the freedom to actually be free, because that means you have to take responsibility for everything that happens, good, bad, natural disaster, whatever. It's on you, and that's scary to a lot of people.
Well, and this is where the scapegoat, or the Adamic excuse, as I like to call it, where Adam says, okay, who basically ate the tree out of the tree of knowledge, good and evil? It was Eve. It was the snake. It's like, somebody take responsibility, and everybody had to project it onto somebody else. It's the same thing with politics. Well, it was that side, or it was this side, or whataboutism. What about this one? What about? It's like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about this specific person, right? As you said, when we hear judge not, yes, it says judge not, but then there's like a whole list of how you're supposed to judge. There's a bracket that follows that particular phrase. And even with a lot of the other early Christians, is that if they're causing divisions amongst you, set them apart from your midst. Also, there's a consistent theme both with early church / also in James. Be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, and set apart the hearers from your congregation. Why? Because they hear the word and they honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. We want to start seeing some action and traction going on here, because otherwise I question if you're truly filled with the Holy Spirit. And this is where Christians are supposed to start gauging that, right? Like, if you're not fazed by something like a clip I'll play of blasphemy, and that doesn't faze you at all because you support the guy more than God's word, that, as again, in a Christian context, that's a little bit of a red herring going, hey, that you should be on guard because this is the thing that you believe in, right? So you should be willing to defend it at a moment's notice. As Christ said, if you're going to deny me down here, I will deny you before my Father. Same premise there. Again, very basic. The simple morality of libertarianism is what we learn as children. Don't strike first, don't steal or cheat, and keep your promises. Pretty basic, but we overcomplicate it. It's not enough to be a libertarian. You must be an agorist, an active agorist. Have conversations, as you just said earlier about my buddy Manny. I want to have you in my presence. Why? Because I appreciate your perspective, even if I disagree with your political party. Right? I just respect you as an individual. This is where, again, with uniforms, I don't respect uniforms. Oh my God! No, I respect per individual, because you could be a douchebag wearing a uniform. I really don't care about that. Right? I want to know you as an individual. Are you worth me returning respect for you? I'm not going to revere your suit or armor or uniform based on simply that the culture tells me to. No, it's per individual, and I think that's fair. And again, I see a lot of MAGA libertarians are still defending the MAGA train, but a real libertarian, a good mark of them, is that they kick both left and right. We're done. We don't do this side, don't do that side. Y'all are crazy.
Yeah.
But also don't form your own political party. That's, again, I like the sentiments, but there's some pages I follow and I'm like, you still don't get it. You're a stupid bootlicker, you statist. That's statism at its core.
Absolutely.
So people may not agree with me, However, we all know Mr. Eat Bugs, formerly of the World Economic Forum, right? Mr. Klaus Schwab. Not sure if you guys can hear this clip. I'm going to try to play it. If you can, thumbs up. If not, we'll just skip over it. But this was his sentiments on libertarianism, not the party, but the concept. Okay, so I'll elaborate. It says what we have here is an anti-system movement. We need to, basically hone in on this because this concept of libertarianism is making people not trust our solutions, is roughly what he says in this clip. Yeah. So if Mr. Schwab is not liking the concept of people saying, I'm my own sovereign individual, I don't accept your solution, what does that do? I'm not going to your freedom city.
The guy who was kicked out of his position by his board of directors in an emergency Christmas Day meeting, or
Wait,
was
they
it New
kicked him
Year's
out or
Day?
he resigned?
Well, okay. So how can I put this? Was Joe Biden kicked out of the political running, or did he make the decision to step down because they were threatening to Article 25 him? Right. So Klaus Schwab on paper resigned.
Mm-hmm.
However, every member of his board came together in a secret meeting. I forget if it was Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or New Year's Day. One of these big holidays where these people would not be getting together unless something drastic had happened. And at the end of the meeting, they basically told him, if you don't step down, we will forcibly remove you. So he, on paper, stepped down, but it was more of a, let's call it a power move, for lack of better words.
Which is ironic because this is what I'm saying with statism, is that your council often will betray you more so with a state or an organization, as opposed to the individualism is saying, hey, we had a chat, that's it. We're not forming a coup because there's nobody to overthrow.
Right.
Right? It's just, we don't do that. We respect the elders, but that's it. Again, just a couple of quotes, but the urge to save humanity is almost always a false front for the urge to rule. H.L. Mencken. Funny how every government tells the people that violence and weapons are not the answer, yet they use violence and weapons to enforce every rule. Michael Elliott. And again, there's another thing I was bringing up is saying, so you're telling me the politician is my public servant, but then they pass legislation that if I don't abide or adhere to, they're going to go send their enforcers to beat me up. Okay, so you're telling me my servant is able to send somebody to go beat me up if I don't obey their laws? See, this has already come a little bit of a problem. It's like, okay, so that's not my public servant. This is a lie. Right? And if they're also able to be bought out and or compromised by a lobbyist, right, and they care more about a corporation over their constituents, then this is a flawed system.
Yeah.
We'll use this rhetoric to say this is why we're doing it. It's for the good of the people, peace and safety, as we reroute, and as you just said, Revelation might be unfolding, end times. Peace and safety. Trump said that already like 3 times. He said it once during the inauguration. He said it again for the Iranian bombing thing, and he said something else in April for the a Twitter thing.
Man, what a powerful quote. You can sway 1,000 men by appealing to their prejudices quicker than you can convince one man by logic. Man, that's true.
And we've talked about that before, right? The individual is smart. You can have a one-on-one conversation with somebody who is very polar opposite of you, whether it's politically, religiously, economically, whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. And over the course of a conversation, I guarantee mathematically you can find common ground and probably both walk away from the conversation feeling good, right? And that's possible.
Finding that common ground.
But it is a lot. It takes time. It takes effort. However, you get 1,000 dudes to all hate the same thing at the same time. That's a quick 30-second clip away.
Yes. And that's the power of the collective or projection. There's a book, I can't remember the author's first name, but it's Fagan, The Lure of the Arena, explaining the appeal of the Colosseum. And basically what he was breaking down is that people were enjoying somebody else getting persecuted on behalf of the state, right? Whether this was a public hanging as we get into the 1800s and whatnot, 1700s, whether this was an execution in the arena. Why? Because, someone else is getting punished by Rome today, and it's because they didn't obey the state. So in a sense, because you're too scared to do anything yourself or oppose the empire, call it what you will, you like seeing somebody else getting persecuted because that takes away from that fear. You're over here becoming like a sadist. yeah, let me let it out because I can't do it against Rome because Rome's too mighty, but I'm seeing somebody else get it. That's right. It's it becomes, you create like this very sadistic culture, which again, I'm looking at Christians who in BLM, they were saying all lives matter. Okay, yes, cool, I agree with this. And then when it comes to Alligator Alcatraz, eat the illegals, eat the illegals. Wait, what happened to all lives matter? Well, not if they're not legal. Well, who's determining legal? The 34 felons sitting in the Oval Office? Well, yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. You're saying you're still agreeing with the state, even though I've heard some people, he's the Antichrist, he's a puppet, but you're still agreeing with legal, illegal by the definitions laid out by Masons and Jesuits. Do you hear how that sounds? It's like you just shot yourself in the foot with what you're arguing. I hear the illegal aspect, but who determines borders? Who determines legislation? Who determines laws? Is it man or God? And you're starting to put that rift of saying, well, it's us. Because at the same time, you're saying that it's for America, let's make America great again. But then you're ready to annex Panama and Greenland and maybe Canada because Trump said so? What happened to our borders? We want to expand? You see what I'm saying? Like that definition constantly expands and retracts at the whim of the crowd.
Yeah. Well, Greenland needs some freedom, Brandon. Greenland needs some freedom.
So does Panama and so does Alberta. Okay, but also, dude, Alligator Alcatraz is wild. That is crazy.
I've been hearing some stories out of there, dude. Most of the people, the guards, they're quitting within a week because the conditions are horrible, even for the guards working there.
Yeah.
That tells you a lot. But again, as we're going down the spectrum, again, I don't need to lead the left-right because we kind of already know, but there comes a certain point where you're in the question mark phase of you're fed up with the status quo and you do not wish to associate with either side of the political parties. So you call yourself an independent and you claim you are neither a Republican or a Democrat. However, when elections are held, you are still vote Democrat or Republican. This is because you are hesitant and are really 100% comfortable with your options. So you're, again, there's a lot of times I'm talking with somebody who's like, yeah, I'm a libertarian, but yeah, I had to vote for Trump, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're not a libertarian because you'd be an individual and you're saying I don't do parties, so you're not a real libertarian. But you say you are, right? Because it sounds good, but you haven't really convinced yourself to actually start taking those steps, right? You're articulating the language, but you're actually not doing it. Same thing with a lot of Christians. I hear what you're saying, but you're applicational. I see a lot of hesitancy. You're afraid to go full plunge, right? You're
libertarian in thought, but not in practice.
Right. Or in thought and in language, but in practice and application. Libertarian is that you have conducted hours of research and have concluded that the government is out of control. You are now 100% comfortable with your opinion and have now claimed libertarian. Libertarians advocate for limited government, free markets, civil liberties, and low taxes. I would abolish that completely. You begin researching the foundations of libertarian and philosophy, including Murray Rothbard, Frederick Hayek, and then Andrew Napolitano, Harry Brown, Ron Paul, Ayn Rand. I do not like Ayn Rand at all. So there's
that's the thing, though. Even within the Libertarian Party, the philosophies, the ideals, on paper, yeah, most people, at least people that would consider themselves libertarian, could get down with them. But then we look at the Libertarian Party as itself, and like you just said, you don't believe in parties, in general. And the Libertarian Party is eating itself alive from the inside out because they get so wrapped up in, which I agree with individual freedoms. I am 100% in favor of this. That being said, you'll have this libertarian that's for just throwing out a source of contention, abortion. This one is for abortion because that is individual freedom. Then you have these that say that, yes, well, that's not the individual. The child inside of the woman is the individual to which I want to have the freedom, right? And so you will then have infighting within the party that is supposed to be the other side of the coin. And it's eating itself alive from the inside out. If they could possibly get a person to run and make a real good show of force in this regard, they might stand a snowball's chance in hell of getting elected, but they can't because they can't quit squabbling among the minor details to get somebody up and on the platform and have an actual three-way debate on the big news platforms during election season. It's
well, which is funny too, because I just looked this up. So I was trying to figure out who the leader of the Libertarian Party is right now, and it's named Stephen Nicalia.
Mm.
And he even says he said this back in early May. He said the LNC, which is the Libertarian National Committee, is it's facing a full that a full collapse is potentially imminent.
Yeah.
So he's
I brought up,
saying like, yo, like this shit is toast.
dude, I brought up
because
abortion. That's
they don't
one
grasp
thing.
the concept is you don't need a ruler and you don't need a party. That's
Right.
an oxymoronic thing. It's just, well, you know, I'm in a position of ruler. Okay, cool. But you don't understand the concept. And again, this is where you veer into the anarcho is no rulers. Is after diving into the surface of libertarian philosophy, you dive deeper. And you start reading Lysander Spooner, who gives you basic natural law, great books to pick up. Leo Tolstoy, highly recommend. Most of his quotes, you literally just start sinking. You sit there, you think, you're like, wow, that was really profound. And that was just one sentence. Albert Nock, Benjamin Tucker, all these other names. I don't really like them. When I looked up, I was like, yeah, I don't think so. But again, open to interpretation for per individual. You start to realize that the state is the problem, and you now advocate total freedom, market capitalism, and voluntary associations and extreme personal liberty. You believe in non-aggression principle, and you understand that the government is a violent monopoly to steal and coerce the population. You are now an anarchist voluntarist. An anarchist literally just means no rulers.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, to again, Juxta Lull, I've been reading some of his stuff. I really appreciate Christian Anarchy, especially chapter 2. Especially as a Christian, Jacob, you probably really like it because I'm reading this like I've read this in the Bible before, but I never thought of it from this perspective. Great eyes to look at things through. But he says, by anarchy, I mean first an absolute rejection of violence. Hence, I cannot accept either nihilists or anarchists who choose violence as a mean of action. And then George Orwell, in his collected essays, volume 1, page 289, he said, if I had understood the situation a bit better, I should probably have joined the anarchists.
I get
Mr.
this.
Orwell himself.
The Christian anarchist conversation, I'm not saying doesn't make sense to me. I understand where they're coming from. But even if we are to refer to the good book, right? The God told the people, you don't need a leader.
Mhm.
I am your leader. Do what I say. And the people pleaded with him, no, we need somebody to lead us, to discern over issues and these. So he installed monarchy onto them.
Not
Now,
by choice, though. Again, he even said to Samuel, says, they didn't betray you, they betrayed me. Also, Hosea 8:4 kind of even hits that further, says they nominate kings and select princes without my say.
and I understand that. I do. But even still, the very basics of human function will need to have, like, let's put it to a tribal leader, a chieftain, for lack of better words.
Right,
There's
right.
always going to be some sort of a figurehead. And I don't agree that we don't physically need one. This is
Right.
correct.
Right.
The society will run just fine without a figurehead of some type.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, that's only been successfully done at very small scale. That's all. So even on the Christian side of things,
Right.
and because we could have infighting within Christianity, even within a certain denomination, even within the Catholics, they can't agree if they really get down with the current pope or not.
Yeah.
So it's that's what I mean. It's just it gets murkier and murkier because
It gets murkier
again,
over time because people keep trying to add on, well, we could do this, we could do that, we could do that.
Yes.
And eventually you start forming parties, then you start forming this, and then you start losing your way. That's where it's really coming down to what Christ says. Narrow is the way. It's not left, it's not right. It's narrow. But
Yeah.
Christian needs to understand, if I'm going to be a disciple of Christ, I need to get rid of all the things of this world and follow him. What does that look like? Well, to follow Christ is to follow the living word of God. As we get in John 1:14, 1 John 5:7-8, which talks about the testimony and witness in heaven, is talking about the word of God specifically, and then again Christ as being referred to word of God in Revelation 19:13, right? So if you're going to live by the word of God, right, that's what you're supposed to do. But most people, as you just said, they like to pass the buck, and then they create, well, Moses, Abraham, and Isaac, and you start worshiping the man, reverence, iconoclasm,
Yep.
more so than the concept of what you were supposed to be worshiping, which is God.
right.
Because
And
you've
that's what I'm saying.
imposed a person to intercede for you. That was the problem.
when a society gets big enough, there's always going to be the haves and the have-nots, and you could put that to whatever status you want to put that to. Finances. You want to put it to land ownership. You want to put it to who's got a bigger garden, who's got a garden that's producing more than the others. Whatever scale you want to put that to.
Right.
And unfortunately, people get the mob, if you will, get panicky. And they start acting irrationally whenever something like that goes and the scales tip a little too far one way or the other.
Right.
So I understand the thought process of a Christian anarchy. I'm with you. I don't have faith in people to actually uphold their end of the bargain to make
That's
anarchy
exactly
flow
it.
naturally.
Don't put your faith in the people either.
Right.
That's part of the beauty of it. My faith is only in God. That's the only... But again, anarchism is not a romantic fable, but the hard-headed realization based on 5,000 years of experience that we cannot entrust the management of our lives to kings, priests, politicians, generals, or county commissioners. Edward Abbey. Statism is willful slavery of oneself, right? This is where you go to the other side of that spectrum. An advocacy of the enslavement of others. I'm going to impose my will upon you when I go to the ballot box of someone that's going to pass legislation that's going to go against everything that you believe in a particular topic, right? It is despicable, cowardly, inhuman behavior, and the permission for a great evil to have dominion over the minds of men and women. Even Charlie Chaplin, I can skip over most of that. As for politics, I'm an anarchist. I hate governments and rules and fetters. Can't stand caged animals. People must be free.
Yes.
Now we're getting closer to the Archons, which I found very interesting. Anarchy derives from the etymology of the absence of rulers, or the Greek noun of archon.
Really?
So we're against Archons if we're against for anarchy. Isn't that kind of weird for a second? And I'm thinking to myself, if we know about what stuff with Gary Wayne and whatnot, Archons, Nephilim, they were rulers of cities. Interesting. And now we're creating something called freedom cities.
So wait, let me get this straight. So to be an anarchist is to be anti-Archon?
Uh-huh.
How about that?
Yeah.
Checks out.
This is the thing that started making me get more and more convinced as a Christian. Again, I'm going to show you. As a Christian, I was going, okay, so if I'm against Nephilim or I'm against spirits or, as we wrestle not against flesh and blood, against rulers and principalities and worldly governors and whatever in high places, I was going, okay, so I don't think the Archons are necessarily gone. Their spirits are still here. And obviously the sentiments against them is still here because we have the etymology of anarchy.
That's funny. And this is what I try and talk to Jacob about all the time is etymology. You got to go back to the beginning of the word. What did it mean? Where did it come from? And it was like a month ago, I did an episode on Meta Mysteries talking about the etymology of the word demon, about how it goes back to daemon, and a completely different concept of, it was basically like a daemon and like demons and jinn.
Yes.
Right? Where does all that go back to? And it's really all about your genius and your daemon, which was essentially, for a lack of a better term, to use a new age term, if you will, I believe that they were just talking about their fucking higher self, bro. I think that's really all they were talking about. But it's not to say that there isn't an evil spirit. It's just the word that's attached to describe what that evil spirit is etymologically incorrect.
Right.
Go ahead, Brandon, because I have a feeling you had something to say on that one.
Well, we were kind of having a conversation prior, but that was more of his take back of kind of what I was saying is that anarchy connects to Archons, which again is connection with Nephilim, demons, all that stuff, right? So I was like, and are we having a thing push for freedom cities, 15-minute cities? Are they funneling us to going back to this phase? I don't know. But we know that Cain was the founder of cities, right? So this starts building a little bit of a premise of what am I against if I'm against rulers or people who are in charge of my freedom, right? They dictate what is freedom. Liberty then is not is the sovereignty of the individual. Josiah Warren, big name in anarchism. Just a couple more quotes. An anarchist is someone who doesn't need a cop to make him behave. Anarchism is voluntary cooperation with the right of succession. The individual or the family or small group as a unit instead of the state. That's Ammon Hennessy. We are anarchists. We do not want to emancipate the people. We want the people to emancipate themselves. Enrico Malatesta. Anarchy means voluntary cooperation instead of forced participation. It means harmony and order in place of interference and disorder. Alexander Berkman. And then finally, there's only one way to improve society. Present it with a single improved unit. Yourself, Albert Nock. Again, starting with the man in the mirror, as opposed to saying, you're the problem, that's the problem. I'm working on myself, which ironically enough, somebody was telling me the etymology for Islam basically means to fight against demons as well, inner demons. It's like a jihad against the inner demon of yourself, right?
Okay.
Well, doesn't that kind of make you scratch your head going, okay, so
A little bit.
you're going against yourself. No, you're going against your desires, right? Your impulses of wanting to do. You will know the difference between good and evil.
Oh, I see. Just like that time that Muhammad went and had that fight with 12 demons, aka big black dudes in the desert that night, and they rode them till the sun came up.
Good gracious, man.
Oh, that's not a joke.
Kids are
That's a
listening.
story within the Quran. Yeah. Their words, not mine. I swear to God. If
Wow.
anybody wants to look it up, Muhammad's fight with the jinn. When you look at the actual literary references, he got banged by 12 rather dark complected gentlemen, and they toiled with him until the sun came up. And you can put that to whatever connotations you want. There have been literary experts to say that no, that was a homosexual orgy. That's all that was. But anyway, yeah, the
Not
internal
making it any better.
struggles. Yeah, I know. Islam is all about the inner struggles, I guess.
Right?
That's one way to look at it.
Again, there's other things you can look for in the Greek anarchist. Well, in today's English word anarchy means lawless. Etymologically, it means leaderless, right? Or without the archon in control of your city. So you wanted to eject them from your city. It makes me kind of wonder, why would you want to get rid of them? What was the problem with an archon that you wanted anarchy? It would be better to not have you as opposed to have you dictating our lives. There's something there. Archon in Gnosticism, archons are rulers, each related to one of the 7 planets. They prevent souls from leaving the material realm. Now, does that not kind of sound like the Matrix stuff?
Kind of. The
And
Gnostics
planets?
were interesting as far as what they believed would hold the human soul together. They hated sex. They hated having kids. That's why a lot of them left their kids on countrysides, like to die, their babies and stuff, which is where the early Christian church found a lot of their early followers are from, saving babies' lives and stuff, which I can understand the theory. The Gnostics believed that anything of this world was inherently bad and therefore crippled your soul. And like, okay, I can follow your thought process a little bit there, but there's also levels to that. But yeah.
Well, it's kind of like
with
the foundation of like nihilism / transhumanism, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
would I need extra baggage for if I could become perfect, or even child sacrifice? If I get rid of my firstborn son, as we were saying with Abraham and Isaac, other cultures are all doing that. I'm curious if you would be willing to go to that extent, Abraham. Okay, whoa, stop. I just wanted to see. Because everybody else is doing crazy stuff thinking they're going to get eternal life by sacrificing their only begotten son. Oh! You see a little bit of a similarity there?
Yeah.
He's going to later on sacrifice Christ. Again, the word of God, because we didn't kill God. But if we could crush his word, we beat him, satanically speaking, if you're thinking as a, okay. So if I kill God's word, the thing that created everything, and I'm an alchemist as Satan, then that is exactly what I want to do. And the word comes back as the way, the truth, and the life. It was overconquered. I don't know, man, but it's kind of making you go, huh. So what did Jesus say about the archons? He explains that people exist as a type of the archons, and that they deserve to be destroyed through them. Jesus warns James that he, Jesus, has stirred up a great anger and wrath against himself, but that it is necessary for the sake of others. When he said the phrase, "Upon this rock I will build my church," everybody, at least in Catholicism especially, have implied that to mean Peter. However, it is likely, as according to Michael Heiser, that this was actually said at the base of Mount Hermon, whose coordinates is 33, and where the angels came down and had affairs with the daughters of men, the orgy. That was where he was basically saying, a place that was known as almost the gateway to hell, that, hey guys, I'm starting the war right here, and you guys are not going to prosper against my disciples and or the church as it continues from this point. Why? salt of the earth?
No doubt.
Okay, I don't know, but I was like, did we just declare war against these guys?
It also kills me, the whole thing with Peter being the rock at which he'll build the church. Okay, let's say that is accurate. Okay. Was he talking about the guy himself? Because, like you said, the Catholics believe that the Vatican is built on top of Peter's actual burial place, which was at one time the Circus of Rome.
Right.
But okay, maybe not that. Maybe, hypothetically, he meant this faith that Peter has presented at this moment in time. This is the rock at which I will build my church. I could even understand that. But it also kind of kills me because, like, Peter, according to the Catholics, was the first pope. Okay, cool. You know, Peter was married, like, openly. It was not a shy thing that he had a wife.
Yeah.
And that they were like, you know, I don't know if they had kids or not. They never really say, but, like, he was married. Why can't priests be married? That kind of kills me. But, like, you know, I'm not trying to throw stones.
Them, isn't it?
Yeah, look, you said it, not me. I'm not trying to be that guy here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it never made sense to me. That's all I'm saying.
The Archons are often connected to demonic figures, particularly those listed in Ars Goetia in the book of the Lesser Key of Solomon, which we know the Star of Remphan, Star of David, is connected with. Many of the Archons' true names are derived from demons, and they share traits with those demons. This connection has led to some to speculate that the Archons themselves might be demons or associated with demonic forces. Archon names and demons. Several Archons have names that are directly related to demons in Ars Goetia, such as Morax, a Geo-Archon, which is the name of a demon, and Baal, Electro-Archon, whose alternate name is Beelzebub, is associated with a demon Baal. The shared traits of the Archons and demons is that they share sometimes some similar characteristics of roles, further reinforcing this connection.
Just, I want to throw this one out there and see what y'all think about this. And maybe you said it and I missed it. I'm not sure. But, you know, Archon, I was thinking like, wait a second, that's not even a biblical term. That is a Gnostic term. I knew that I had heard it from, you know, looking into the Nag Hammadi and stuff that. But like, if we are to look at everything that is within the Nag Hammadi as Gnosticism is blasphemous and debunked, then why continue to use even a word that would be overall, you know, non-canon?
Well, again, even think about this. God had Noah build what?
A boat?
An ark.
Archons.
Okay.
I don't know, but
same with the Ark of the Covenant, right? Which was the big box that they carried from place to place to be God's presence on this earth. Just like Mary's womb was the Ark of the New Covenant.
What was it in Hebrew or Greek? That's English that you're speaking.
Or you mean the word Archon? What was it in Hebrew?
What? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if all this was originally said in Hebrew or Greek, or whatever, then the English translation and the comparative words wouldn't make sense. You always tell me that.
No, I agree, but you just said bring up the etymology. And for that purpose, the Archon, although, yes, you're right, it is a Gnostic word, it's still a word that would be used to convey the message that's trying to be presented.
How? I mean, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, almost literally. But with that, if God wanted you to be, I'm not going to say be fearful, but to be aware of said entities that might be evil, I mean, he probably would have mentioned Archons, right? Like, but it's never mentioned in the Bible.
Well, this is even the kind of thing, though, Jonathan, is where we're talking about them conquering the Promised Land in Canaan. How many pastors actually mention the Nephilim? And when you talk about the concept of angels coming down and mating with the daughters of men, most of them go, no, that's not even true. Or you mentioned the first book of Enoch, not the second and third, and they're going, oh, no, that's just part of the Apocrypha. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, but apparently this thing exists because there's big giant bones under, you know, with the Smithsonian. There's big giant bones with the Vatican. How come? Well, you know, we just don't talk about that. Or that's just true. That's just AI.
No,
but that looks like a solidified giant in that rock.
No. I'm fully on your side. I believe what you're saying. What I'm saying is then we got to go back to why weren't certain books included in the Bible if these are things that we need to know.
So with that, Archon is actually a Greek word that means ruler or leader, not necessarily Gnostic. It's Greek. right? Gnosticism came around when the Roman Empire came about, right, in the 1st and 2nd and 3rd centuries AD. The Hebrew word that could be used would be shout or ruler or leader, a nagid. So there were words that were probably used in the original translation that were translated to Greek, that were translated to Latin, that were translated to English, that we would now say, oh, the ruler of this land, even if the Greek to which it was written might have said the Archon of this land. I don't know that for a
and
fact.
also equate into that the Tower of Babel, where everybody's languages were confounded. So you basically, again, just like I said, deity telephone. This one's trying to explain this story, and he has to change the name because he doesn't speak the same thing, but he remembers the same story. Again, the story of the flood being in all these different cultures all over the world. I think a similar premise could be applied to this as well, is that it part of the Bible is in Hebrew, part of it's in Greek, but somehow today we get it in English.
Sure.
And it's very similar to the 3 wise men that came to Jesus' birth, the 3 wise men. The Bible says magi.
Right.
They clearly use the word magi, which were a Persian priest of Zoroastrianism. Mm-hmm. That's what a magi was in the day and age. Why did that get converted to wise men? Because the term magi later became magician. And it's like, well, they weren't magicians. They were wise men. They were studied and educated individuals. So we're going to change it in this way. You see what I'm saying?
But as Brandon brought up earlier, and as you just recently brought up, that Archon translates to ruler. So ruler wouldn't translate to Ark of the Covenant or Noah's Ark or anything like that. So that's what I was just trying to say, that you can't draw comparisons based on words that wouldn't have been compared back in that time.
I'm going to use this the next time you bring up etymology to me, by the way.
Oh, please do, because you always call me out on this shit. So this is my turn.
Hey, guys. I just tried to record something on Zoom. And, of course, lovely demonic powers don't want me to record anything that I just did an hour's worth of recording and it didn't even go through. Really freaking pissing me off because I put a lot of time into explaining all this, and it only recorded like 46 seconds once I hit the presentation thing. So, condensed. I just want to throw this in here that I did look into what Jonathan was saying in the show. Archons can also refer to rulers of this earth. Whenever I run this presentation again with another lovely host, whoever is willing to sacrifice some time putting up with it, I'm probably going to do a more updated version. However, you're just going to have to accept what I have today. I do apologize. It made me very, very, very angry. This is what I'm talking about. I need tech support, but I don't know. I keep asking them for help. Nobody's freaking coming forward, so I'm sorry. I do apologize. I'm very angry at this. But I guess I'll also take time just to ask folks to please consider purchasing some merch. For several reasons. One, the person who goes into all the effort of designing this, you'd really make her smile. Let her know that what she's doing is not in vain, and you're also supporting the show. The shirt that I'm wearing now, Dare to be a Daniel, is inspired off of the concept, are you willing to stand up against Babylon when they're passing legislation saying that you can't pray, you can't do these things? And basically coming back with Acts 5:29, do we obey government or do we obey God? Yeah, do we fear man or do we obey God? And ultimately, keep on going on, doing the things that you do, serving God, daring to be a Daniel despite what the government is doing. God says that the empire of iron and clay will not cleave together. That is something to look forward to. But during all this time, do you have anything that you're showing people that you're not afraid of what's coming, that you have confidence, right? And who is your confidence in? Are you willing to dare to be a Daniel? And on the topic, really could use prayers because, like I said, I'm probably going to wind down doing this mid-end of next year. Just getting to be overwhelming. I really need backup. I really need support. And kind of experiencing a little bit of a burnout after 5.5 years of doing this solo. So just throwing that out there, folks. Been a lot. But anyways, back to the main presentation. Hope you guys are enjoying the show thus far, and please feel free to not be a zombie consumer and don't suffer from that digital arthritis. Go down there and hit the like, the share, subscribe. Really help the channel out when you do that. All right, I'll go back to the main program. Catch you later.
Fair enough.
Again, part of the reason, I'm laying this out, but I'm also going to show the symbolism of connecting. Does this make any sense, right? Because I understand we can go into that argument, but I'm going to show some other stuff. The Gnostic arc Archons and Gnosticism, a Hellenistic religious movement, views Archons as rulers of the material universe. Like I said before, very big in the occult. Like I said, with the cross, is actually a symbol of earth, materialism. These beings are often depicted as flawed and even malevolent, attempting to keep souls trapped in the material realm, aka the Matrix. Some Gnostic texts associate specific archons with planets, suggesting a link between these bodies and celestial bodies. So now, add to that, the Greeks, they used to name their planets after gods. Interesting. Right? And also, like we get with the Kundalini, you have the tier systems, which you could line on the Tree of Life chakra, right? Or the chakra upon the Tree of Life. But again, different variations, same concept, but a little bit of a different variation of the same thing.
Well, they're energy centers is really what they are, though.
Are
they?
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. That's literally your energetic centers, like your chi centers. That's all, all that is.
But is that what they were originally intended for, or is that what people are taking it in now with a new age flavor?
No, that's the way it's always been. It's always been understood that that's what chakras are. They are energy centers. Yes.
Hold on. Hermeticism isn't necessarily, like I should say, Gnosticism isn't chakras. Vedics and Gnostics were completely different conversations.
Right, but you brought up chakras. No, am I tripping?
No, I'm gonna be showing how this does connect. Again, okay. We don't have to agree with me. I'm just gonna show you. I'm bringing up their textbooks. I'm gonna literally show books that of exact chapters quoting some of this or inferring some of it. In the hypothesis of the Archons, Sophia's actions led to the creation of the Yaldabaoth, who in turn creates the Archons. The text describes how Archons try to harm Noria, but are ultimately defeated by divine intervention. So, again, we have over here, celestial. They are connected with philosophical systems, particularly Gnosticism, and the concept of the Archons is closely intertwined with celestial bodies, especially stars and planets. Remember that star Remphan I mentioned before? And again, right. Jeremiah 10:2, be not like the pagans who look to the stars or in awe and wonder of them. As before, I mentioned angels were known as star walkers. This is where the concept for Luke Skywalker came about. And again, guess the ethnicity of that particular creator of that franchise.
Or how about Hollywood's favorite Christian, Chris Pratt, being Star-Lord?
Oh, yeah. That's Baal. That's Baal Lord or something like that. As I was breaking down that etymology. Yeah. The 7 Archons are frequently associated with the 7 planetary heavens they guard, and some Gnostic texts also connect them to the 12 zodiac signs. Gnostics believed that after death, the soul had to navigate through the Archons' realms and reach higher spiritual planes. This passage required special knowledge, or gnosis, to avoid the Archons' obstacles. The connection between the Archon stars and Gnosticism lies in the belief that these celestial bodies are domains that are ruled by the Archons, who aim to control humanity's spiritual path.
And that seems to be the overarching theme of Gnosticism is grace by, or I should say, savior by knowledge. Right. You're saved by your wisdom that you can attain on this earth. Yes. That seems to be the overarching theme. Anyway.
How is that any different than testing the spirit?
There's a difference between discernment and the quest for knowledge. That's a very different conversation.
It's pulled from the same fucking arena.
Absolutely not.
How is it not? Like, whenever you go to test the spirit, where are you going?
So
there, are you going inside?
I don't believe that I will ever be, I don't believe my soul will ever be made better or worse from understanding chemistry.
It's inner wisdom, inner understanding, inner gnosis. That's all testing the spirit would be anyway. You're not, where do you think you're testing the wisdom, or where do you think you're testing the spirit at? Like
against the word of God.
That's where do you go for that? Where do you, Jacob, go for that? For testing the spirit? Where's that? Where do you in your mind, where do you go?
The word of God.
So you go to the Bible.
Yeah.
So you go so you got a life circumstance and you want to test the spirit. When you say test the spirit, you literally are opening a Bible and trying to find a verse that agrees or disagrees with what your question is.
I mean, unless I already know, because I may not be as well versed in the Bible as most. I'll give you that. I could be more well educated into it. But yes, if there's a thing that presents itself to me and I honestly don't know what the right answer is, because I could see good points on both sides and like I could also see bad points on both sides. And like, okay, I honestly don't have the wisdom on my own to discern what is the right or wrong path here. Yeah, we are supposed to consult the word. And I give this with big italics and quotations and underlines, and or those that are more well-versed in the book. Now, I don't believe that everything should be brought to Mr. Pastor Man, although I do believe that pastors, and in some cases priests, could be used as a source because they are more well-versed than most. It's their job to be well-versed in this. But again, you got to test that water because some of them are well-versed and some of them are more well-versed in what they want you to believe out of the book. So yeah, all else fails, go to the book itself. Agreed.
Okay, sure. But so you never, whenever you pray and whenever you talk to God, you never get any kind of answers?
Oh, no, I believe he speaks very directly. I think you can all hear him if you just open your fucking ears.
Oh, yeah. Intergnosis. You found it.
No, that's not intergnosis. I don't believe that God is speaking from within me. That's crazy.
It's not within you. It's you got to go in. I'm not.
You just said intergnosis. Anyway. I don't believe that God's within me answering me like that. I believe I'm speaking to him. He's answering from his position, not from within myself. That doesn't make sense to me.
But you're getting the information to your fucking self. It's inside of you.
That's why it's not
inside of you. Or are you actually living the word as Christ did? That's part of the thing, is that if you're in the word, you're walking by the word, right? Bread of life, water, all these elements. Again, I have another slide with that. But it's basically, as we get in Proverbs 9:10, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A lot of people tend to just eject God from that, and there's no reverence for God himself. So it ends up becoming whatever you want to interpret the word as. And this is where I've stated before, if you want to be God, then weaponize his people. Yeah. That downside of what Jacob said is that often a lot of people don't want to make it applicational, and or they say it in Latin so that the people really don't know what's going on, but they think they're pious and holy because they're going to the holy man, but they don't make it personally applicational. Yeah, this is where it's going into the individualism. Did I apply it? Did I read it? Do I know what it says?
Did I put my own personal biases on what I just took it as? And that's my thing, Jonathan. I'm not saying this is coming from myself or even internal to me, because Jacob's got biases. Jacob is a sinful, unpure person, right? It's only through the blood of God that I am made pure. Through the blood of Jesus, I should say. My answers come from him, not from inside myself, because myself is a very biased source.
You're missing my point. My point is that whenever you are having that conversation with God, are you going to heaven? Are you blasting off into a spaceship up to heaven? Or where is that conversation being had?
God's omnipotent and omnipresent. It's everywhere. What's your point?
So is that conversation with God, is that happening kind of in your mind?
I speak it out loud and I hear it with my ears personally, but I can't speak to everybody. Some people think I'm crazy that I say that God will actually answer you if you pray and you listen for him. Some people don't believe that you can hear God. I respectfully disagree with that. I'm not trying to judge based off of how somebody's doing their walk. That's just my personal walk.
Just out of curiosity, what does God's voice sound like?
It's very subtle. It's very subtle. It's not some big thunderous, you should do as you're told. Read the verses. No, it's not like that at all. It is not like that at all. It's a very subtle, warm voice that is only trying to love and encourage you. I'll say that much.
Okay. All right. I'm not trying to spell anybody's thoughts or beliefs. I was just trying to show you that there is some kind of parallel. Whenever people are having intergnosis, they believe that they are getting it from the higher realms. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Or I know what my inner dialogue sounds like. That dude's a dick. I know that guy. He's funny, but he's a dick. There's a difference. There's a clear-cut difference between the two.
All right. Sorry. I just wanted to make a point for Gnosticism. I'm not trying to throw Gnosticism under the bus. I think that there's actually some real shit to it. But anyway, go ahead.
I do, again, just I was reading after I did what's the name? Tinfoil Hat. I was reading some of the comments saying that I love how this guy says he's not going to do gematria, he doesn't believe in it, then does a whole episode about gematria. I was like, I'm explaining the occult, dummy. Like I want to say something more colorful, but I'm like, it's not something I look up, as Jacob was saying with the Magi. It's not like I'm studying the stars and I'm over here trying to figure out when's this going to happen, when's that. I can make guesstimations based off of what I'm seeing that they believe in. Like you said, Nas, it's like, okay, they believe this, but is there any truth to it? Does it mean I'm a practitioner? Oh, I'm just
Same
curious
with
what's going on over with behind in the neighbor's yard. I'm just looking my head over, going, "All right, that's kind of weird," but that's it. It
same with
doesn't mean I'm practicing.
Buddhism. Buddhism has a lot of great philosophies that anybody of any religion could apply to their life and gain some wisdom. I'm not negating that. I'm saying that maybe that is not a source of divinely inspired word.
Right.
Right. It's the difference between like reading an amazing book, an amazing novel. There's some lessons that could probably be gleaned from that novel. That doesn't mean they're divinely inspired lessons.
Well,
You
not
see what I'm
divinely
saying?
inspired by the God that you worship. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's not divinely inspired.
But that's what I think divinely inspired is. Divine means from God, not gods, not this God, that God. I mean the one dude. That's
Different
by
interpretations
definition.
of what God is. I get it. All right.
Anyway,
Which is a perfect segue. An archon is a head god.
okay.
Think of Zeus from Greek mythology or Odin from Norse mythology. Note, archons are not only gods, the god of dust, the goddess of salt. Dust thou art, and to dust thou shalt return. Overlord of vortex, king of gales, lupus, boreas are all gods, but none are archons.
Got you.
Right? Again, there's definitely
Odin is an archon, but Thor is not.
Yeah.
So like king god, if you will, Zeus, Jupiter.
Top of the pyramid, exactly. Yeah.
So per that example, in Greek mythology, it would be Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. These three were the archons, right? And in Roman, it would be Jupiter, Neptune, and which one was the Hades crossover? Not Pluto. What was it? I forget. But yeah, so you'd have like your top dogs in that regard that are kings over their realm of gods, but then you have all the lesser gods,
governors.
The
It's like serfdom.
Yeah.
Then you got the lords, and then you got the, what I'll fill in the blank with all that stuff.
Yeah.
Archon and Gnosticism, any number of world governing powers that were created of the material world by a subordinate deity called the demiurge or the creator. Huh.
By the way, the Hades is associated with Pluto.
I was right. It was Pluto. Hades. Damn.
Nice. So something I found interesting, again, I'm talking about worldly governors and all this stuff. King James conveniently took this part of a verse out, which Geneva Bible kept in. And as I said, it's in Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against worldly governors, the princes of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness which are in high places. Worldly governors. Now, again, etymology for government, govern, to control, meant of the mind, mind control. Huh. Why would I support this? And you notice how all of our buildings look very similar to the ancient Greek and Roman temples? Which I'm chuckling. Again, we're fighting the culture war. Look up the etymology of cult and then add U-R-E, that etymology. Basically, you get something practice, worshiping practice. Yeah.
Right.
And then you got Anton LaVey, those who naively think that politics and voting do not, ritual magic do not coexist. Yes, this is part of their thing.
It's kind of a funny thing too, because we always talk about how maybe some things have been taken out of the Bible, some things have been put in the Bible, and Jacob always says, well, I believe that God, the Bible that we have that's God's manna. That's what we need. And then the name of your show is the Manna Daily, and you're pointing out the obscurities within the Bible and about how they've been changed. It's just kind of a
again, this is going into what you're saying, is that there's obscurities in what we would even say with Gnosticism, right? Saying how do people actually follow this as a life source? But we're over here again. I'm coming to meet it halfway, saying this is what they say. Is there anything in the Bible about this? I'm bringing up verses, counterpoints, right? Is there any validity to what's already there? And when people are saying, well, you can't really rely on the Bible, can you even apply the basics? Because you're arguing so much the semantics of things you disagree with your cynicism or skepticism, right? It's basically like, that girl's really cute, but then you think about the 12 things you dislike about her, and then you never reproach her. And why? Because you're so busy focusing on the negative, you're never going to see, what could she bring to my life? What's an aspect that I appreciate, what she can contribute, right? And you're never going to find out unless you approach or basically say, you know what, I'm gonna swallow my pride. I'm gonna not lower your standards to like bad, but I'm saying lower your, you know what, I'm not gonna be so critical. I'm going to try to see if there's anything I can contribute to her life, because maybe I'm judging too much. Same premise.
You, Brandon, you're coming out with some fucking facts over here, bro. I like it.
Again, everybody comes to their own dang conclusion. I'm not going to impose that dang thing on anybody. I just walk away and say, that's up to you. But astral religion, star worship, right? Worship of the stars, which is long associated with astrology. Now, I think there's something here that the Bible would kind of point out. Astrology, Ashtaroth. Red star, usually pentagrams are shaped. You look up the sigil of Ashtaroth, it's a red star. So again, don't really know. Is it in the Bible? Do we see the word pentagram in the Bible? No. But penta means 5. Gram, God ram, goat ram, Gadriel, pentagram, 5G. Penta means 5. God, I don't know. Don't know, but we're connecting it to that, and we're going to sum up soon. Jeremiah 10:2, like I said before, is thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed of the signs of the heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. A lot of the Mithraic cult, they used to, go into caves because they believed the sky was made of stone. Maybe Josh Monday is onto something. I believe in biblical cosmology. Whether it's true or not, we'll find out when I'm dead. I'm not going to argue and, impose that upon anybody. I think there's some merit there. But this is what they believed. And again, it does connect with the tree worship because this is in the same concept. What did they put atop of their Hermetic Kabbalah tree of life? It's either a star or an angel. Is there a little bit of that concept of you shall be like gods if you eat of this tree?
Oh, that started in the Kabbalah. They put the stars and the angels on top of the Christmas tree. I didn't know that.
Not the Christmas tree, the Hermetic tree.
The Hermetic Kabbalah tree, but it is Kabbalah. That's Hermeticism. Yeah, no. That's the problem. Is there's so many terms out there from different sects. It all interconnects, as we find with Aleister Crowley. You're like, okay, so you basically went to all the schools all over the place, and you're like, cool. I just got a bingo card from all of the mystical cults out there, and we see what kind of guy he ended up being. Now, again, Star
Some people call that just eclectic, really, but I get your point.
Yeah. It's a collective. 666, this is part of the thing. The cross can equal 666. This equals 666. The Kaaba cube that the Islam worships over in Mecca, that equals 666. Sorry to take it to everybody. 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, 6 protons. The concept that if I seize the alchemical power, then I wouldn't need Creator God because I can continue longevity or life without the need of him. Well, how would I do that? Well, I would need a little outside help. And this goes into like aliens and whatnot. Or as I like to hear it, alien.
Nice.
They're a lion to fallen angels. I don't know. I do think there's going to be something there. But Kabbalah, an introduction to the illumination for the world today, and Charles Ponce. And again, this is a picture from inside the book. Looks very similar to that star of Remphan, the chakra, or the corona, how to ascend. And the contents within this book, it's talking about part 1, the background of the Kabbalah, traditional literature of the Jewish religion. This is stuff that Christ was condemning, Kabbalah's traditions of men, even though there's some people in comment section saying, that's not right. Yes, it is. I dedicated my life to this. I know what I'm talking about here with this particular topic. The mystical literature, the nature and origin of Kabbalahism, and the numbers, names, and letters and computations of God, the essence of man, so on and so forth. Basically look into the mysticism of how you can become your own God. Sometimes that means looking within. As I've said before, in Mithraism, sometimes you have to kill the ego so you can ascend. That's a concept often taught with this group. And again...
Isn't that what baptism is, though?
Which is very interesting. No, because in Mithraism, they had a baptism ceremony too, but it was with theirs, it was more of how do you phrase it? It was more of the promise that you are going to be reborn as a new individual. So basically, what Nimrod in Tammuz is that when Nimrod died, he was reborn into his son Tammuz. So basically, your what is it?
Reincarnation kind of thing.
Reincarnate, yeah. But I was trying to say that the perpetuation of your own life seed, your own life cycle, it's always going to be continued, just put into a new vessel, right? So it's kind of like when you saw Doctor Strange in the movie where she touched him and he had like 3-4 phases of his body going to the astral realm. This is kind of what they're talking about, is it's going to be recycled like carbon, right? You're the carbon they want to eliminate. You're going to be reborn. That's kind of what it was in Mithraism. In Christianity, it is saying, I am dying to self. Why? Well, if it's true with biblical cosmology, the interesting thing about that is you go under the water. What does that mean? You now can cross the celestial sea to get into heaven, which only one individual is that key, Christ, because he is part celestial, which was inside him, and the fleshly was of Mary, Abraham, Isaac, David, Jacob, fill in the blank of all his stuff. This is the fleshly part. That was crushed, right? By his wounds, we are healed. So if the Spirit of God, or his word, was inside Christ, and you crush that, what does that do? It's going to activate the Holy Spirit, which we see with the ripping of the temple veil, right?
And there's also more to it as far as the reincarnation, like you said, Nimrod and Tammuz. It wasn't just a reincarnation cycle, because keep in mind, Tammuz was alive when his dad, Nimrod, died. Okay?
Yes.
It was more of a combination of possession and reincarnation all at once.
Or the Spirit. The Spirit's going to be translated into you. And again, we see pagan Christianity, right, the counterfeit, how they've mimicked a lot of the same elements. So again, if you're a fallen Archon, you've come from heaven, you saw roughly a peek at a blueprint of how God's going to save humanity, but you don't really know how it's going to be done. Hence why Satan was tempting Christ and asking him questions like, what are you doing down here? I really want, what are you doing in my realm? This is my realm, Oh, you want a kingdom? I'll give you a kingdom. I'll give you all the kingdoms of this world. What's Christ do? I don't want the kingdoms of this world, right? Because why? That is something of man. My kingdom is not of this world, as we get from John 18:36 by Christ. This is why people who are defending kingdoms of this world, I said, you basically are just hitting a roulette, and then you're firing for any continent on this world, and then you're becoming a patriot to defend what? One of the sectors of Satan.
Just out of curiosity.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure y'all got the answers on this. But how is it that Jesus is not a demigod or a Nephilim? Because isn't that the idea of a demigod or a Nephilim is a god coming in impregnating a human woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
How is Jesus not considered that?
Because he is the Word of God. As I referenced those verses before, you might want to pull them up because they might give a little bit more context as opposed to you're just saying verses randomly. If you read them, they kind of give you a little bit more context to who Christ is. And this is why I argue against the Trinitarian aspect, because Trinitarian, well, the official Trinitarian, you have to always remember when you say the Son, you are saying God's Word. So if you wrote a book, Jonathan, and I am citing your book, is that book an extension of you by proxy because you are the one who wrote it and it is your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, it's a plagiarism if I cite from it and I do not accredit you. Why? Because this came from you. It's your thoughts, it's your process, it's how you came to your own conclusions, right? This is who Christ is. That is God's Word. Hence why he says no man comes to the Father but by me. If you're going by the original Trinitarian, no man comes to God unless they go through God? No. You are Antichrist who denies the Father and the Son, 1 John 2:22. So you are Antichrist who denies the Father and the Word. If you're not living the Word, then you truly do not love the Son. That's what Christ is. So how can you say you love the Father? So it's not necessarily as typical lore like Thor and Odin. It's more of I'm going to encapsulate everything I ever thought and everything I ever said into one human individual. And whoever believes that this was the fulfillment of everything I've ever thought and said from beginning to end, this is how they're going to be saved. Those who deny him are going to deny me by proxy because they're denying the book, author. They're denying the thing that I wrote of how to save them. So it's
which is also, he came down and fulfilled like 2,000 prophecies with his birth, his parentage, his life, his miracles, the resurrection, all of these things. And nobody else can make such a claim. Right. And then he was the fulfillment of the word. He didn't just come down here and say, yes, I am him. You're welcome. Like he was actually giving lessons on the deeper meaning behind the word that the people had been living by up until this point. But they had started to twist it and bastardize it and make it more of a human interpretation of what shouldn't have been. So he came and was preaching against certain things, preaching in favor of certain things. And the let's just call them, we call them Pharisees, but the dudes that
That's
were
where they
the experts of the word did not like the fact that he knew more about it than they did. And there was tons of examples of that too.
And because they had cults after Israel was destroyed, you had one sect that went to Pergamum, which is supposed to be the throne of Satan, interestingly enough. And then you had another group that went over into Babylon. And this is where they started to forge the oral tradition of the Talmud before it was officially written down. And then when they all came back to Israel, these two groups came back with them. Now, that was like a parasite. By the time Christ came on the scene, the Pharisees were already doing all this stuff behind the scenes. Hence why he's saying you do the traditions of men. You do Kabbalah behind closed doors, and you think you look good to the people, but you're misleading my people with your teachings. Hence why, crap. He's taking the word, he knows what it means, and then he's changing it from how we're inverting it. So like I've explained before with the cross, we put a crown of thorns on his head, a corona. Somebody's supposed to be cursed hanging on a tree. With them, it's an ascension, right? Constantly, they're throwing out all this stuff. And then they're saying, oh, you want to be king? This is how we treat a king. Ours is supposed to be a magician, not a messiah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I'm saying. The antithesis of Christ would be somebody like Donald, who is preaching materialism, who is always playing the puppet. Christ was not playing the puppet. He played the servant. Right.
It was so easy to dismantle their talking points too. Though one of my favorites is whenever he healed a woman on the Sabbath and they were trying to arrest him for doing something on the Sabbath. You ain't supposed to do shit, right? And he's like, okay, real quick. Did you feed and water your animals this morning? Asking a very simple question. Well, of course we did. Oh, so you did farm work this morning, but you're getting mad at me for saving a woman who's been afflicted for years with a painful issue? Somehow I'm the bad guy here, but you're righteous because we both did quote unquote work this morning. Okay. It was that's what I mean as far as like the fulfillment of the word and giving deeper meaning to the scriptures. He came and said that, no, you've been living this way. You should be living this way. You should be living as according to these laws. However, y'all got a couple of things y'all twisted, and here's what that's actually supposed to mean, and they didn't like that, right? But to your point, Jonathan, how is he not a demigod or a Nephilim or something like that? So here's the deal. The Watchers, the Fallen Ones, put whatever terminologies you want on these fallen types. They came down and fucked women and procreated, offspring with them. The angel of the Lord didn't come down and have sex with Mary. That he came down to tell Mary, by the way, God just put it in you that you are pregnant. So by definition alone,
he asked if it would be okay. That's even a difference as opposed to violation.
Right. The demons, the fallen ones, whatever, they raped the women.
Yeah.
Mary was chosen because of her bloodline, because of all of the important things. Mary was a very critical puzzle piece to this tapestry, if you will. And it wasn't forced upon her. It wasn't through some sort of physical copulation, if you will. I'm pretty sure I butchered that word, but whatever. He told her, by the way, God just put one in you, but you are still a virgin. Her hymen was not broken when she gave birth. All of the other examples of what we might call demigods, demons, the fallen ones, the giants, the men of renown, whatever, that's not exactly how that one took place. So by definition, they are not the same thing.
But how could a angel, literally not even of flesh, even have sex with anything physical in the first place?
Because they do. Sorry,
to say that angels are not flesh, that's not, yes, they are not flesh, granted, but there's other examples where they come down and they have a very beautiful, appealing visual to them. Look at the example of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? The two angels came down to Lot and his family's home. The village people of, I believe it was Sodom, saw them come down, basically surrounded the house and said, throw out those gorgeous men that came in because we want them to be known to us, aka we want to gangbang them because they're so hot. So yes, although they didn't have a physical form in that sense, they do have a physical image that they can take. And some of that is of a human looking form. Some of that is the fiery wheel with eyes and there's different levels to these. There's ranks to these.
My point is that there's no biology to these fucking individuals, into these beings. How?
But the angel didn't impregnate Mary. He didn't physically do that.
I'm talking about for the Nephilim.
Oh no, they came down and they could take a physical form. Hell, how did Satan become a snake?
He didn't.
Oh, really? He did. That's kind of what that took place. Like these things can be. The
It
great
could be a little bit
deceiver.
of variation
far in the
of both,
weeds
is
right
that he
now.
had scales. Serpent also can just mean somebody who speaks with a forked tongue, but as well the serpent characteristics could be a connotation of how they were translating that. Just to give a little what Jonathan might be pressing back with.
No, but I mean, they can take over the forms. Like, they are deceivers.
Yeah.
By definition. They can shapeshift into whatever they need to for the time being.
And that was
Like,
the reason God was saying when they were taking out Canaan, kill every man, woman, and child. Everybody's like, well, that's really extreme. No, these things were shapeshifters. I don't want anything living. Why? Because they can, oh, look, it's a cow. Okay, keep on focusing on the city. No, everything. They can shapeshift, destroy it. So some people are asking, how did they survive? That might be one of the ways. All I'm saying is that, I transformed into a cheetah so I can outrun them and get out of here.
I mean, it just seems kind of silly that you would send the whole world into a flooded frenzy to wipe out the offspring of the demons or the fallen angels or whatever. Why not just, like, I don't know, take out the fallen ones instead of killing their offspring?
Because it was so prolific that it wasn't like it was just this village. It was just this city. For lack of better words, and I understand that some people are going to disagree with this because this is where the myth and the legend kind of weirdly try to blend with history, and it's not always a solid jive. I understand that. But if we are given to believe what the scripture says, it wasn't just even a kingdom or a nation. It was basically the entirety of the world were so fraught with the offspring of what we would now call like demonic seed that it wouldn't have been so simple to just kill only the bad ones. Like there's no way.
Well, there's a bit of an example of this is what happens with those who decide to mate and or conjure with or couplet with this group. That's also another indication. And I added to it, but there was a little bit of a meme with Pokemon. He's underwater. Says, if he's such a loving God, why would he do that? And then he floods the earth. Okay. Then it ends up switching, saying it was like, well, if he's loving, why did he flood everything? Or if he has laws, how come he doesn't, take out the wicked? That's what he did with the flood. So in essence, what you do with that is saying, hey, anything that mates with them, which is I'm trying to get to the end times thing, man is already trying to go back to this. Right, we are seeing stuff over in Japan of how they're based. Was it a mammoth or something? They just procreated something by not even having sperm.
Yeah,
we're living
trying
in
to
the
bring
days,
back these things, dude.
And this is what it says in the Bible: is that in the last days it will be just as in the days of Noah. They're trying to redo it by messing around with genetics and whatnot. That is Hermeticism. That is again what these guys do, Gnosticism. Basically, we can create life without the need of a creator God. And we have the Archon technology to do so. This is where I believe UFOs almost act as like an emissary vessel between a fallen angel, fallen entity, aliens, as you might call them. And this is how they're able to talk to their kids with maybe telekinesis. And whether you want to say that's Sasquatch, or whether you want to say it's the Glitter Man, whether you want to say it's the Wolf Man, fill in the blank. I think this is their bastard proteges of this is the stuff that we created when we were here. And now we're getting ready to have these things to come back out. Cryptids.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
I didn't mean to throw you off of where you were going. It was just a curiosity that I had, and I was like, well, wait, I don't know, just certain questions.
But no, that's a great question, though, man. And I think that also the whole story of Noah, people think that that's a story of God's wrath, and I understand why people would take it as such. Personally, I see that as a story of God's love. And I know that that might sound counterintuitive at first, but let me break this down for you. If you found out that you had cancer, right, and it wasn't just a spot, your body was riddled with it, would you throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at it to try to get rid of it so you could preserve this body, your life that you love so much? Or would you just let it succumb and say, oh, well, I guess fuck it. It's been a good one. I'm just going to go ahead and die now. I feel like that might be more or less the situation here. God could have said, whatever, hit the hard reset button and kill everything. We wouldn't know the story of Noah's flood. We wouldn't know any of these things. We wouldn't, or at least these stories wouldn't have been written down. Let me rephrase that. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, we don't know. Okay, fine. But I also think that the fact that he chose to preserve the purity line, right? And he told them to build the ark. He told them to save these specific animals. He told them to do these things. I think that that's way more of a testament to God's love rather than his wrath. The same way that our bodies, if it's riddled with tumors, we're not trying to kill ourselves from the chemo. And yes, we could have a conversation if we should or should not do chemo. This, for the sake of the example, bear with me. I think that we would be doing everything we could to get rid of the bad within ourselves in order to preserve this life that we have formed for ourselves, if that makes sense.
Going into the individualism is where you have to then come personally back to God, as opposed to going as a in masse through an institution back to God. It's more of a per individual says, you know what? It starts with me. I apologize and confess with my mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord, or the word of God is what saves me. Right? It's not my own thinking. It's not my own merit. It's not, doing all these fancy works that I get back into God's good graces. It is, I want to serve him because of what he did for me. Hence, John 3:16.
Yeah.
That makes any sense.
Anyway,
the tarot. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just trying to, I was like, all right, I have a lot more questions. Unfortunately, we are up against it today, so I want you to get
Beat
through
it up. I understand. I
trying to
can
get
always come back for a chit chat session as opposed to doing the presentation if you guys ever have an opening or whatever.
We always got an opening for you, brother.
Oh, thanks, man.
absolutely.
The tarot and the archons, while originating in different cultural and philosophical contexts, can be linked through shared themes of wisdom, guidance, and hidden knowledge. The tarot, a deck of cards used for divination and insight, and the concept of the archons being often associated of spiritual and divine authority. Both engage with the hidden aspects of reality and offer pathways of understanding. Shared themes and guidance at the tarot and archons. The tarot is often used as an insight into personal situations, relationships, and life's paths. The cards offer symbolic representations of different aspects of human experience, helping individuals navigate challenges and make informed choices. Archons, often portrayed as divine and spiritual figures, are believing to provide guidance, wisdom, and support. They can offer and act as intermediators or intermediaries between the human world and the divine, offering knowledge and direction. Now, something I found interesting, because I knew Jonathan would probably pop up with something as he was inferring, I just wanted to bring this up because I was like, okay, so if these guys are following archons, is there any connection with what I just showed before with the Kabbalah, right? And tarot in the Kabbalah. A tarot deck has historical ties to the Jewish Kabbalah. Yeah. A mystical tradition that explores the nature of the universe and the connection between the divine and humanity. Both systems delve into hidden knowledge and symbolic representations of the divine. So as you were saying, looking to inner self, maybe there's something with that Islam, the jihad against your inner self, the inner demons. Another instance with Christ that kind of points out that he may not have been a demon and or Nephilim is when he was here, constantly when he was confronting individuals that were indwelled with demonic spirits, he was casting them out. And they were also saying, you are the Son of God. And he would constantly say, you're not supposed to be talking about that right now. Shut up. So on and so forth. So, kind of gives you a little bit of an inclination that these guys knew it's not, oh, you're part of the council like the rest of us. It was, you're the son of the God. Yeah. So, kind of defeating a little bit of how do we know he wasn't that. A little something there. I don't want to read all of this. Just basically wanted to point out again, I thought we'd have a little bit more time, but alas, we got a little bit misdirected. Just showing that the Kabbalah Tree of Life is in the same book as well as the tarot cards when you're trying to understand the Kabbalah. I didn't put the book cover here. It might have been the same one as before. I believe it is. But again, I'm showing their sources. It's not something I practice personally. I've been looking on other sites and, again, Instagram. Oh, this is something you're interested in? They throw it up on my timeline. I take screenshots, and therefore, I'm saying this is what they are promoting and believe. Again, something I found interesting. We see him doing the hermetic pose, the magician pose, right? And we see the chakra, but we also see that rainbow. Is that a little bit of a nod of Noah's Ark and also the leading up of Noah's grandson of Nimrod in the Tower of Babel? The fruits of the tree of life? God gave a rainbow to promise that you never flood the earth again, and somehow this is what you chose as the cover for your book? I mean, you telling me something here? I don't know. But read some of the table of the contents of said book, How to Approach the Study of Kabbalah, the number 10 in the 10 Sephiroth, the structure and symbols of the Tree of Life, the tetragrammaton of the 72 planetary spirits,
Tetragrammaton. Damn, I can't even say it. That is a tough word.
Tetra G. Yeah.
Tetragrammaton.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Or trials. The 4 elements, again, so on and so forth. But we're seeing a little bit of a consistency here. And again, how they depict the Christ for us, white tunic, red sash, really weird, and weird that mega does mean magician, and it's called Trump tarot cards. Weird. And again, doing the pose as Baphomet. Baphomet's the same as Hermes. So they're promoting this, right?
Yeah, the major arcana of the tarot, which would be, your hermit and, star card and tower and all that shit, would be the trump cards.
The tower, the hermetic, and what was the other one you just said?
The tower, the hermit, and the star, and like the hierophant, and all those are all the main trump cards. Those are of the major arcana. Otherwise you have maybe they're called the lesser arcana, I think, or something.
I think it was the greater and the lesser, the major and the lesser.
Archons, I kind of wonder.
Yeah, well,
and then we're talking about the tower like Babel. We're
talking about this is, guess who this is? He
minor
posted this
arcana,
on his Twitter or his X.
Minor, yeah.
Naib Bakule.
Boy, I read that completely different. My eyes are going bad. I thought his last name was Bukaki. I'm about to say, get the fuck out of here, bro. Anyway, sorry.
And he, again, this is the guy who built the Max prison that Trump's been deporting people. What's El Salvador?
Yeah.
This is the president. And look what he posts. We are birthing super intelligence. We are creating the mind of God. Infinite, destined to solve every problem we've ever faced and usher in the age without death. And he posts the Tower of Babel. What does he know, right? And again, I found this interesting. This is a side thing. He's actually from Palestine.
Oh, shit.
Paternal grandparents were Palestinian Christians who emigrated to El Salvador from Jerusalem and Bethlehem in 1921.
Whoa.
I was looking at that going, dude, this is bad. Is that literally you get away from a country that's now going through a genocide and you go over here and create a max prison, and then you're talking about this?
And they were Christian Palestinians in the 1920s. Wow.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I want to say Palestine had it was like a 22% Christian population before Israel was founded as a country. If you look now, it's like 0.5% or something crazy like that.
Everybody, yeah.
Yeah. The national Islamic wave kind of did that to a lot of Arabic countries, but anyway.
In part.
Yeah.
In part. People sometimes tell me that they are interested to know the Kabbalah, and they've read a lot of books by well-known students of the Kabbalistic science. People such as Lenane, Pappas, Elphias Levi, Dion Fortune, and A.E. White, and Israel Regardi. Now, what I found interesting as I kept going on with the reading of this thing, because I just want to show that for reference, when the ancients spoke of the 4 elements, earth, water, air, and fire, their understanding of the word element was, of course, not of the chemists today. The elements of the ancients had nothing to do with the enumerated by Mendeleev in his periodic table, and were simply the basic substance of which every physical body was composed. Interestingly, science says that we need at least 4 basic elements to survive: water, air, food, and light. And look what the Bible says about Christ, the Word of God. I am the living water. I am the breath of life. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. Yeah. Interesting that the ancients are somehow getting onto the same thing. The tree of life as the Garden of Eden. You know the difference between good and evil. Now, what's the option you're going to choose? Are you going to look within yourself, or are you going to submit to him? That's always the number one paradigm here, is saying you can choose this or you can choose that. That's where free will comes into play. Now, the other ones make a very tempting offer, saying, look to this, look to that, practice this tradition, right? Of the corona. Now, I'm leading up to this because, again, I know it seems like it's always consistent, but, chakra, they're showing it here. Tree of life, I'm getting this from their own pages. As above, so below, as within, so without, from Hermes Trismegistus, but it's affiliated with Baphomet, which most, like I asked a Christian, alleged Christian, I said, do you know, it'd be the goat guy, the Baphomet. You're really familiar with that, right? The what?
Mm-hmm.
The Baphomet. Oh, no, I don't know what that is. Google it. You'll recognize the face immediately. It's probably been in a movie at least once or twice in your life. I'm not going to do that. Okay, so if you don't even know the premise of what your spiritual enemies believe in, right, then are you truly a Christian? I have to ask. Now, A equals 1 and I equals 9. AI equals X. Osiris rising. Now, who names everything X?
Wow.
Huh. And I? AI? Mono I? Mono means one I. Money. Mono I.
One
Are
world
the
currency.
Archons gonna control us with money? As we said before, 144,000 is the natural DNA of an individual. When the C19 elixir came around with the corona, you get an extra digit added into your DNA. And
I love how you just said that. The 144,000 is our natural DNA sequence. I want everybody who might have heard certain biblical quotes say that only the 144,000 will be called up when the time comes. Did he mean specifically 144,000 souls are the only ones getting to heaven? Well, the Jehovah's Witness certainly believe so. But there is another school of thought to say all of those that have human DNA can be called up. It's just a matter of if they have taken that choice with their free will to be counted among his flock or not. But that's just a deeper meaning behind the 144,000.
Yeah.
They wrote it down back then, even though they didn't understand the DNA sequencing genomes. I'm just throwing this out.
Well, again, and it's interesting because there's a camp of the saints in Revelation known as 144,000. Now, when you are conceived, there is a spark of light, as scientists have recently just discovered, which is very interesting to me. Right? Yeah. Speed of light, spark of light. Don't know. What was it called? Operation Warp Speed? Speed of light is 144,000, and you're doing something like, I don't know, but I think we were getting pretty close to something here.
Is that the speed of light?
That's what I'm saying. Operation Warp Speed, then you have speed of light, and then you added something into our...
Yeah.
I don't think that's all a coincidence.
Wow.
As well with Babylon Blue, respect the blue, right? The Archons are the rulers of the realm within the kingdom of darkness, who together make up the Prince of Darkness. Is anarchism dying? Well, in the last decades of the 20th and 21st century, the anarchism movement has been resurgent once more, growing in popularity and influence within anti-capitalist, anti-war. What I find interesting, right? Because if you were originally around in Genesis and you saw all this going on and you're against the Archons and what they're doing to these cities, and now in a time that might be Revelation, you're seeing a rise of people appealing to this concept of being against rulers. There were 32 million Christians that didn't vote in this last election. Is that a sign? I don't know. But we see even in Catholicism, and they did this in the Righteous Gemstones too. I saw them do it, again, similar artwork. But it's the tree of life that they're mimicking by putting the Virgin Mary on it, but it's emulating all of the spheres. Okay, yeah, we're almost there. All the spheres within the Kabbalah tree of life. Now, Corona, again, take a screenshot, folks, but you come to find out all the numbers add up to 6.66.
Whoa.
666. Saint Cyprian, just a few years later, expressed the same objection to crowning, based on the grounds that some Christians had already received the seal of Christ on their foreheads. They could not place it subordinate to the Roman corona. Cyprian argued, from the cursed and the wicked veil with which the enslaved heads of those who sacrifice at the Capitol are veiled, your head remained free, your forehead pure with the seal of God, could not wear the garland wreath, corona, of the devil, and itself kept itself free for the garland wreath of God.
I was trying to figure out how you got Corona to be 6.66, but it's Corona itself is 6 letters, and the gematria or the numerical value attached to each letter equals 66. So I get it. Okay.
Yes. Again, it's just, Tertullian calls it the devil's mark on the forehead. Cyprian said this. So it's making me go, don't think that's all a coincidence. Pandemic comes from Pan. It could be an equivalent of Baphomet, Hermes. It means god of the wild nature. Flock is affiliated with sex, fertility. Panic is where we derive the word from. The word syringe comes from the Greek word syrinx, which means a tube or a pan flute. Pied Piper.
Wow.
C19 or divuk, COVID, translated in Hebrew, it actually could mean a possession by an evil spirit. It's also a database for medical records. Whether you want to fact check that, they're going to say no. Daemon, as I said before, is the root server for all computers. You can get as whatis.com, and again, Daemon, as you were saying before, when you're breaking down that etymology. But now, what does beast mean in hardware? Hardware stands for Belgian Economic Accounting and Surveillance Terminal. That sounds like a CBDC there. And is part of the Belgian statistical system of design to collect, process, and store financial data. Beast provides several services to its users, including monitoring economic development in Belgium and providing analytical tools for a more informed decision process. Mark of the beast? AI? I don't know, but their number is 666 on the side of their building.
Wow.
That's strange.
Or very, very specifically done.
Now, I'm going to sum up in a couple slides, and then we're done. Baphomet, again, can be aligned over the pillars as well. The very top, they say, is truth of the Hermetic Kabbalah Tree of Life. This is known as the Devil's Champion outfit that Elon was classically affiliated with. His nanny asked, is he the Antichrist? No, but he'll present the mark. Now, 2027. I'm going to predict something here. Whether it's true or not, I'm making a rough guesstimation of this. Is statistical data I have compiled, Your Honor. I don't know if it's going to happen, but might transform. 2027 is the year of the goat. Okay? It says in 2027, Elon's going to release his 400,000 robot army. I'm going to pitch this, that there was a rabbi that said on October 2nd of 2027, there's going to be an announcement regarding Trump. That's supposed to be the start of a new Jewish New Year. As well, in October, what I find very interesting is also 33. It's the 8th month, Oct. 8 is a 33 universal symbol, a mirrored 33, right? But it's also our 10th month out of the year, X. So you're getting a 10, a 33, and a special announcement regarding Trump in October. Google Images years ahead says that Armageddon will be in 2027. Now, if Trump ended up being offed, and they already have that Iranian thing if he gets assassinated, would this then spark a 12-minute war? And when he comes back, he says, I've been to God's presence, and he told me to purge the, whatever, and you guys are actually the real chosen people, we need to look with it. I don't know. Don't know, but wouldn't this be the time then to amp up your 5G towers and tell them that's the after effect of the radiation when it's probably the activation of what you got with the C-19?
Yeah, I mean, it was essentially the same thing whenever they fired up the radio towers, wasn't it? What plague was that again, Jacob?
You talking about the Spanish flu?
Spanish flu. Yeah. There happened to be a Spanish flu as soon as the fucking initial radio towers went up, which is really strange. All these frequencies that are not good to the human body, just, I mean, whether they're doing it out of ignorance or, on purpose.
Oh, they know.
Sure.
But the golden age, as he's always calling it, of Saturn, it's at the top of their little tree of life. Interesting enough, the Grok symbol that Elon uses is also the same symbol on the Economics magazine showing the money burning and a phoenix rising from the ashes. 10 is on there, X.
Oh, interesting.
Whoa.
I want to be wrong. Am I seeing anything with Trump with relation to this? Well, Mar-a-Lago, he stapled in Trump we trust, not God, all over a goat.
Oh,
Matthew says he's going to separate the sheep from the goats. Again, mono money. Don't know. Trump prints out a $1,000 bill, and on the bottom, we have 666.
I haven't seen this $1,000 bill yet. When did this take place?
Oh, he's just printing it out for vanity. It's not anything you can use actually as real currency, but he's printing it out as concepts and ideas.
Gotcha.
Again, 616 is a mirrored. The number of the beast is 666. The number of the beast is 616. 0 equals nothing, F equals 6, A equals 1, F equals 6.
Wow, fuck around and find out means 616. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
And as well, Jared Kushner, when he, I think, was it the Kushner Fifth Avenue Tower plan blocked? But he purchased a building and its number was 666 on Fifth Avenue.
Jared.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Oh, anyways, I'm just going to sum up with two or three more slides. The Genius Bill and the Big Beautiful Bill. Big Beautiful Bill basically just amplified surveillance state, right? And if these Archons actually are controlled with AI, X, fill it in whatever you will. The passing of the Genius Act, which happened just recently after we all got caught up in the Sydney Sweeney Jeans fiasco, will now allow the federal government to freeze any citizen's bank account for refusal of a mandatory injection.
Whoa.
Yeah. Genius, genie. What did you say about that, Jonathan? Isn't that kind of weird? Guardians of a house, genies, genius.
Well, it actually used to be that Roman emperors used to have build cults based upon their genius,
Yes.
which is pretty wild.
So there's an ex-Pfizer saying that people, basically, you won't be able to exist anymore. You will be replaced by a QR code. In essence, your DNA will be your data, part of the beast system. Your economy, everything. The beast system, as we were getting in 2 Thessalonians, the mystery of iniquity doth already work. 2 Thessalonians 2:7. Is that possibly implying that currency, the love of money, is the root of all evil? Money has always been around, but now it's becoming a system of control and dependability. And in closing, monotheism in science, God's institution, evolution, and system, biological organism, parallel dimension, planet Earth, wavelength, vibration, fill in the blank. It's all the prophecy against the devil and satanic demonic energies and negative doctrine, but we see how it connects with the Star of Remphan. Interestingly enough, 5G is an upward sigil of Lucifer.
Wow.
And the Bible calls in which once you walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, and the spirit who now works in the sons of disobedience, Ephesians 2:2. Sons of disobedience, is that possibly a nod towards Archons without using the word, but with already an indication, the sins of the angels? Google Play. Anyways, all I'm saying is, as I said before, Salve, one of Baphomet's tattoos, means bringing something from one realm into existence, which I suspect is 9/11. Coagula means blood clots, so that means if you're going by the third pillar in the middle, the last thing you would need is the mark on the forehead, the pentagram on Baphomet's head, which I highly suspect will be part of this beast system. Anyways, gentlemen, that's all I have for today. Thank you for letting me elaborate as to my personal beliefs. Not sure if it'll convince anybody else, but anarchy, Archons, maybe there's something there with the beast system. Don't know. Up to the viewer's discretion to believe if I have any credibility or if it's just a conspiracy.
Well, look, Brandon, you are always on one. If for nothing else, you are entertaining as all hell, bro. So I think that you get people to think, get people to look into things, and that's all this show is really all about. We're not trying to tell you what to think. We're just trying to show you some of the breadcrumbs that may lead you to what you inevitably come to believe and understand. So if anybody wants to be able to reach out to you or find you, how would they do so, sir?
Yeah, Mana Daily Podcast, Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, and if you can, Patreon for older individuals. That is basically where, as you guys have explained before, where you pay a little small percentage per month and you get, bonus and exclusive content. Me, I'm not really up to that grade just yet, but you can customize $3-5, whatever you can afford, and help me keep on going and doing what I'm doing. And then krollology, KROLL-ology, _101. And yeah, that's where you can find me on Instagram. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Awesome. We appreciate it, my brother. We will be doing it again soon. It's been too long, so I think we got to make it a little bit more frequent here. And with that being said, this was another beautiful episode of the Cult of Conspiracy.